across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And good afternoon. Yes, welcome to the Political Asylum. Normally Kevin O'Sullivan, of course. Did I say afternoon? Did I go on the first hurdle, Pete? Did I do it?
You did.
I went straight there, didn't I? Good evening. Good evening. It is Ian Collins in for Kevin O'Sullivan, because Kevin O'Sullivan was in for us this afternoon at 1 o'clock. I won't bore you with all the details, but that's how it's panned out this evening. We've got a lot to get through, as you will imagine. So many subjects, so many issues. We're right across the Trump and Putin story. I don't imagine we're going to be on air when we get a kind of press conference, sort of post-meeting press, if we get one of those. Are we going to hear windows smashing and people legging it out the room, shouting, and stay out? Maybe we will. We will watch with interest. But there's so much to get into on this one right now. Can I just bring in this? I was thinking about VJ Day. The Nazi surrender, of course, was not officially the end of the Second World War, 7th of May 1945. That was the date, of course. We think of the war finishing then. Actually, 15th of August, today, when Japan finally accepted the Allies' terms and bowed out. 80 years ago today. We lost 30,000 soldiers in the Far East part of the war. Most of those died either in combat or were prisoners of war in Japan. Men who surrendered their lives, they paid the ultimate sacrifice. We remember this 80 years ago today. We should, of course, never forget. And if we look at the entirety, by the way, of World War II and the British deaths, we're looking around about 500,000 people. I mean, let that just settle for a second. 500,000 people, 390,000 military deaths, 67,000 civilian deaths. 500,000 fellow Brits, your fathers, grandfathers and their fathers. This is recent history, really. So what did those who fought and lost their lives imagine the UK might look like 8 decades later? And would it still leave them with that sense of being proud to be British? I'm going to throw that question out. Are you still proud to be British? And we can look at all sorts of stories that are out there today. I mean, Birmingham springs to mind. You might notice we've got a couple of Union flags behind us in the studio, but a Labour-run councillor sparked a bit of a backlash by tearing down St George's flags and Union flags from streets because it could put lives at risk. This is the same place that's got loads of Palestinian flags flying all over the place. Love a Palestinian flag. In fact, it wasn't just that, but yesterday they lit up the library in Birmingham in green and white to mark the anniversary of Pakistan's Independence Day. Who gives a flying frick if it's Pakistan's Independence Day? I mean, amazing. I love Pakistan. It's one of my favourite countries. I'm not absolutely sure I want to be celebrating Independence Day. And by the way, if you did want to celebrate every single country's independence or their special day or whatever it happens to be, then you might think you'd be allowed to lob up a Union Jack or a St George's flag without somebody coming along going, ah, sorry, but you can't put that there. So I think our forefathers 80 years ago would have the shock of their lives if they could imagine the United Kingdom in 2025 where it becomes almost a criminal offence to stick up a flag. They would be looking at things like the TikTok migrant, the man who's boasting and bragging about the hospitality he's received for absolutely jack. I reckon they'd look at that and go, it's not really what we fought for. And channel migration in the wider sense as well. They'd be looking at all of that. They'd certainly be looking at the story of the Labour councillor Ricky Jones. Surely he's got to get fired, this character. Ricky Jones, the one who called the Southport protesters disgusting Nazi fascists. We'll play you a clip on that shortly. And infamously wanted rioters' throats cut. He said all that. He was found not guilty of encouraging violent disorder. That surprised me. I'm not saying, look, jail, Lucy Connolly shouldn't be in jail. People for words shouldn't really be in jail. But you might think a bit of parity when it comes to something as egregious and as disturbing as a bloke doing throat-cutting gestures and actually saying it out loud. He wasn't like kind of intimating that this might be. He was saying it out loud. He's a far-left nut job, this bloke. He's just walked free out of a court. 0344 499 1000. With all of that in mind, are you still proud to be British? Do you still feel proud to be British? Our lines are open. Peter Barnes is with us, political strategist and all-round nice bloke. How are you, Peter?
I'm not so bad, Ian. How are you doing?
Yeah, good as gold.
It feels weird not having Kevin staring or shouting at me just yet, which is an odd sensation so far.
It is. Something happens at 7 o'clock. I did almost sort of, somebody like injected me with a gene. It's sort of like, shout!
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually directed at me normally.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's a national scandal.
Yeah.
Well, Kev did a brilliant job this afternoon.
Yes, he did.
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
just kind of swapped seats for the one day.
Yeah.
But we are in a strange place, aren't we?
We are.
And the fact that it's VJ Day, and I think back at all those 500,000 Brits that lost their lives, what would they be making of where we're at now?
Yeah, the thing is, if you listen to the King's remarks on this, he said it was the forgotten part of the generation. And I always think it's actually the unknown bit of the generation.
Yeah,
I think the
point.
vast majority, as you rightly said, think that, you know, the war ended months previously to us, to when it did. And, you know, I think this is a bit of our history that we don't recognise, and I know for certain we never really learned about it at school.
No.
We pretty much, the war ended in May, for as far as we were concerned.
That's right, the Nazis surrendered, that was it.
That was basically it. You don't really learn about the next bit of it. Yeah, it's a real shame. But the one thing that I still cling to is we don't do the whole flag-waving patriotism. I don't like that. I think that is very nationalistic in a bad way. I like quiet patriotism, and the fact that this country just carries on the KBO and attitude. I think that is what it is to be British. Is we don't need the pageantry. We could do it, and when we do it, we do it the best in the world. But I think that's the point, is that when we choose to do it, we are really good at it. And I think the fact we don't feel the need to do it all the time, we don't feel the need to show off all the time because we're British. We don't need to. And I think that's what I've always clung to. I don't like people that wrap themselves up in flags. I find them very, very... Well, they always say patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel.
Yeah,
and
I know.
I think that
Dr. Johnson, was it?
Yeah, I think it was. And it keeps proving itself to be true more often than not.
I do often think one of the subjects we keep going on afternoons, and a lot of the programmes here on Talk, as you know, Peter, is that question of, when it comes to channel migration, as an example, what is the most effective way to win that argument? And I honestly don't think... Having a protest is absolutely fine, and, by the way, in some cases, crucial. But I think if you have a protest and you've painted your butt cheeks in St George's flag, and you've got, a bulldog tattooed on your face... I'm not sure that is the most effective way to make the argument, because critics will use it against you, aside from anything else.
Sorry, 100%, but this is what I've rather liked about these protests outside the migrant hotels. They've learned this.
Correct.
They have started to police themselves. They started to get rid of the bad elements. They've started to actually understand that protesting is a PR exercise. It's not just about who can shout the loudest. And it has really shown this, because the government has not been able to brand them far right. They've not been able to kind of box them off and ignore this, despite no matter how hard they try. And it's like, finally you've learned something, and this is why we're starting to see movement in Epping, we're starting to see movement at Canary Wharf of the government actually starting to bend to this, because protest has become effective. It's not just about screaming, it's about being effective.
And you should, it should almost be not exclusively the economic argument, but the economic argument about channel migration is such a powerful one. If something is costing literally billions a year, on a daily basis, 5 million quid for hotels alone, that doesn't include translation services, all the other things that go with it, strain on housing. So you'd think the economic argument, whether you're left wing or right wing, would settle it, really. You go, look, here's a situation. We've got 50,000 people have just pitched up in the UK. No one said, in you come. They just turned up. If 50,000 people had jumped the barrier at Heathrow, there'd be an international crisis. But do it on the channel, it's a whole different story. So you'd think the economic argument would be decisive. That would be it. You'd just say to the government, no, it's costing millions a day. They go, OK, yeah, we'll stop it then. But that doesn't work.
No. It also doesn't really work in convincing a lot of the public just to the size of the problem, because it's what's known as the problem of big numbers. We don't have a concept of £10 billion. We have a concept of 100,000. It's why, for example, we measure things in the length of football fields. We understand how big a football field is, so your brain can wrap your head around it.
Point.
The reality is, the reason, the fundamental thing at the next general election isn't the migrant crisis, it's not the economy. The long-running theme is fairness. Why are people going to work, spending, being fleeced of
100%.
taxes, and yet somebody's getting it all for free? That is the issue at the next general election. All of it can link to all these different issues, but if somebody comes along with an answer to that question, they've wrapped up the next general election.
Yeah. Are you still proud to be British? 0344 499 1000. You can message on 87222. You can leave a voice note for us as well on that number 0344 499 1000. Let's have a look then at this Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor. Samara, have we got the video of that? Can we see? Let's just have a reminder of this is what happened. This is what it all, or how it all began. Ricky Jones, a Labour councillor, since I think resigned or got fired or whatever it was as a Labour councillor. So this was around about a year ago or so, and here's what he had to say about people protesting in Southport.
We've got children and women using those trains, destroying the summer holidays. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cut their throats and get rid of them all.
Yeah, right. Point number one, he's an idiot. I think we can all kind of settle on that one. Number two, he's probably a dangerous idiot, because I think he believes that. Right? He's walked away free from court. They couldn't find him quite guilty of the charge was encouraging violent disorder.
Section 2 of the Public Order Act.
So he wasn't found guilty of that. It was a jury trial, so this was not some kind of,
It was half an hour. That's how long they took to deliver. It was just
didn't
half an hour.
take very long. Can you be absolutely sure that this man was trying to encourage violent disorder? And of course, on balance, the jury went, well, maybe he's not, so we have to find him not guilty. I mean, regardless of what it was, this man is an extremist. He self-identifies as being far left. There's nothing illegal about being far left and being extremely far left, just to clarify, Ofcom fans. There's nothing illegal about that either. In fact, it's to be applauded. Ricky Jones is actually a very, very nice man. A nice man indeed. OK? Because, there might be some of those. We've got people out there got bloody Ofcom on speed dial. Oh, hello. I want to complain because some hurty words came out my transistor.
Yeah.
Get in the bin.
Exactly.
Anyway, Ricky Jones, by the way, not a nice man, and a terrible thing for him to say, was found not guilty. And naturally, people have been making comparisons about various other cases. Lucy Connolly springs to mind. Now, the problem with this is she did plead guilty.
Yes.
If she pled not guilty, she'd had a jury trial. I don't believe she would have gone to jail.
No, I don't. But it's also important to remember they were charged under two very different things.
Correct.
With different weights of proof and burdens of proof and all the rest of it. Like, you also have to remember that Ricky Jones was reacting to an incident where a razor blade was found behind a fascist sticker on a train with the intention of hurting people. There's a lot of depth to these two stories that is being rather lazily brushed over by people wanting to make political hay out of it. My thing is neither of them should go to prison. You shouldn't go to prison for the words that come out of your mouth. I don't understand how that's a controversial position these days, but I'm a free speech guy. Call me radical as all you like. But we have to remember that Lucy Connolly's tweet went out to 310,000 people before it was deleted. The influence and impact of Ricky Jones's one is significantly less, and that's why he was charged with a different thing. It is... My big concern here is that we are seeing this kind of two-tier narrative being spread incorrectly, and it therefore will weaken it. There is a very real problem of two-tier justice in our country. These situations aren't it.
So this isn't an example of it.
And I think clubbing in on it, and kind of using it as a weapon, like some people are already, you're not helping. And don't get me wrong, Lucy Connolly should not be in prison. Neither should Ricky. Because if you believe in free speech, there's no but. There's no but after that sentence. Yeah, I believe in free speech, but you don't believe in free speech.
Yeah, that's true. Because if the argument is, I don't think Lucy Connolly should be in jail, and also I don't think she should be in jail. I don't think any sane person thinks Lucy Connolly should be in jail. It might have been a stupid tweet, but that is not the use of prison.
Yeah.
Did she seriously mean what she said? I don't think anyone thinks that for 1 second.
The thing that really let her down was in the actual tweet. She says, if that makes me racist, then so be it. I think it was that bit of the tweet that really kind of undermines the did she mean it kind of aspect. But like you said, she pleaded guilty. And you can say, well, they were pressured into it, and there's a whole other argument to go behind that. But on the face of it, this was the right decision by the jury for me that he should not have gone to prison. So don't get me wrong, he's a terrible human being, and people shouldn't say stuff like that, but you don't go to prison for just the things you say.
So are you come on, be honest, Peter, are you related to Ricky Jones? Is that what you're telling us?
I regard...
You're like a fanboy of Ricky
No,
Jones.
I'm a fan of free speech. Call me a controversial, I'm a free speech absolutist. I would rather people be racist, homophobic, whatever you like, because I know what you actually believe.
Yeah.
The fundamental flaw in all of this type of legislation is that you think you can get rid of hate. You can't. The idea is you could just legislate it away is moronic. I'd rather people be open and honest about their opinions rather than hide them, and more dangerously, go underground out of the public eye.
Well, indeed, and the left, it's interesting because the left seems to think that the state is capable of doing things that it can't actually do, or just get rid of hate. I mean, it's a bit like when they say get rid of racism. It's like saying, well, what other form of criminality could you guarantee you're going to get rid of? These are criminal. You couldn't get rid of them. What is fascinating, though, as ever, is that the left believe they have the monopoly on decency, of course. And,
they always have.
That's the only reason to be left wing. This, I believe, is scientifically proven that there is no other reason to be left wing other than the fact you think it makes you a nicer person. Because in any other level, any other splinter of the kind of spectrum, being left-wing is simply a moronic disposition. It doesn't make any sense. But we're a democracy. I love the fact we're a democracy. Be left-wing, right-wing, somewhere in the middle. I like the fact the Green Party exists. I think it's brilliant. You know, it's a democracy. We're not North Korea. But the left believe that when they say something bad... So when Ricky Jones says cut their throats... I think he believes that. I think he is the kind... He genuinely thinks that people who protest outside migrant hotels or over the issue of migration and associated areas, he thinks they're scum. He really believes that, and he believes it with impunity because... He's a nicer person because he's a lefty.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
The bloke's flipping bananas.
Bananas, without a doubt. But it's the left. The whole concept of being left-wing is that you believe that people are naturally good. So if somebody is naturally outside of that, then there is something wrong with them. And the left can't do the whole person and politics. No. They can't separate it. It's why they can't do the art and artist problem as well. So that, you know, everything by one artist after they've been found guilty of something must never be heard again. You can't. They don't really get that separation. But it really is in their pathology. It's halo polishing is a lot of the big problem that we have with the left, particularly this more metropolitan left, the new left, as they like to call themselves. They kind of, you know, the Notting Hill lot, basically. Yeah. They just like to show, oh, I'm a nice person, I'm doing this, and I'm a nice person. Yeah. So it's the idea that suddenly something comes along in that lot, and they suddenly say, oh, well, no, it can't possibly be one of us. They often turn out to be the worst ones.
The one that really sticks them up a cul-de-sac with nowhere to go is when it comes to things like Islamic terrorism.
Oh, yeah.
They really struggle to condemn that, and they struggle because they cannot bring themselves to say something negative about a brown person. Ultimately, Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens first made this. The first person I heard made this point years ago, and I thought, God, that's brilliant. That is really the core. It's like, oh, I just can't go there. I can't get. But they're suicide bombers. They've just blown up a load of trains and a bus. Can you not say something bad about that? Well, it's not really for me to comment. Of course it's for you to comment. Yeah. If it was the National Front, you'd be all over it. All over it.
It's watching them kind of get their heads blown up when they suddenly realise that, you know, when they're trying to support the trans argument and they're trying to support migrants coming from places like Afghanistan. I'm like, well, wait a minute. One puts the other one at risk. They start playing oppression Olympics with each other. It's very entertaining to watch, but it's very concerning that it's at the heart of our politics.
Yeah, it certainly is. Peter Barnes is with us throughout the course of the programme. You know, I know, 3 hours, right?
Imagine being me. I'm stuck with me.
Always great to see Pete, and he's with us to chat through the big stories of the day. Your comments on the way, anything that we're chatting about, you're free to chip in as well. 0344 499 1000. Leave a voice note there as well, particularly that question on VJ Day. Are you still proud to be British? You think of what's happened in those 80 years, particularly the last sort of 20 years in this country. What would those soldiers who gave their lives for this country and for the wider world, what would they make of the UK today? How would they, when characters like Ricky Jones or councils that tell you can't put a Union flag up but will illuminate the city to celebrate Pakistan Independence Day, which just sounds like a Monty Python sketch, really, doesn't it? But that's how they roll. Channel migration, the TikTok migrant and all of his brags and boasts, Keir Starmer. What do you think a soldier sitting there in the trenches back in World War II, if someone showed them a picture of Angela Rayner, do you think they'd have carried on? Probably not. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
I am not hopeful that there's going to be any big grand resolution. I think that there's going to be a lot of discussion about Ukraine, Russia, but I think that a lot of the topics are going to involve the relationship diplomatically, business-wise between the U.S. and Russia. Yeah. You know, we have had, you were talking earlier about China, we have had the, you know, unprepared resolution of pushing Russia closer to China. And now we're doing the same thing with India and others because of our policies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. Ian Collins in for Kevin O'Sullivan. Kev was filling in for us this afternoon. It's kind of like a wife swap, but with microphones. So we did that today. There's a story behind it, but it doesn't really matter. As we speak, Donald Trump has just arrived in Anchorage in Alaska. Air Force One has touched down. Will there be... This is the bit, isn't it? Will there be a handshake? Peter Barnes is still with us, by the way, with us throughout the whole show. Is there going to be a handshake beforehand? We're not going to be privy to the meeting,
no.
Right? The meetings are going to be private. They might say some stuff after the meeting, or someone might say some stuff.
If someone's got to be thrown out of a window.
But we will be long off air, I think, at that point.
Oh, we definitely will, yeah.
But will there be like a public handshake beforehand?
This is the thing.
And how does that work?
Well, all of these, the way they put these conferences, these kind of big things together is done by the letter. Like, you know, there was a very famous one where North Korea walked out of a peace conference with South Korea about a decade ago because the flags weren't the same height. You know, these things have to be perfect because it's about
somebody walked out of a press conference because the flags were...
Yeah. Because the flags, it's all about keeping people in the room. You don't want to give them an excuse to leave because that means that it's a complete breakdown. So you've got everything's got to be put together absolutely. But this is why the whole thing with the Alaska sign: is it too high? Is it too low? Is it in the middle? Is it right? Everything has to be bang on, and it's
who gets the hump about that?
Well, people that are looking for a reason to leave.
So it could be like symbolic that they've distanced.
That kind of thing. Particularly with North Korea and those kind of nations, it's all about international image and all the rest of it. But this handshake is a big thing because is it about Trump greeting a friend kind of narrative, or is this Putin having to come to the table? Is it,
do you do poker face?
Yes,
do you do smiles?
It's a whole thing. And
do you wear a bikini? I mean,
that one I'd rather not in Alaska.
Well, you wouldn't want to see either of those blokes in a bikini, would you, for God's sake? But yeah, the pressing the flesh bit, they've got to be diplomatic about that, because this is a man that's invaded another country.
Yeah.
Are you meant to shake his hand and go, all right, mate, how's it going?
But then
is that how it's going to work?
But then you can't distance him too much because you need him at the table.
Because you need him on side.
Yeah. It's I don't envy Trump at this at all. My big fear, and this is what as a lot of American commentators have said this, is he going to give away the kind of the cart for the headline? Because Trump said he would end this in like a matter of weeks of becoming president. He's failed at that. He's got Putin here. Is he going to give away too much so he can say, I ended the war? In other words, is he just going to give away Ukrainian sovereignty? Is he going to give away too much just to say that he was able to do a deal with Putin? It's a big fear that a lot of people have, and it's because Trump is treating this as a kind of business negotiation, and it's not. That's where he keeps falling down.
I'm seeing another plane land as well, or about to land. I'm going to take a punt that is
Air Force 2.
That's Air Force 2.
It could be.
You don't think it's Putin?
Oh, he could. Oh, yeah. It could be. I don't know. But that's a whole thing about who lands first.
Well, Air Force 1 is down, but the second plane, I don't know. But then is that real? I mean, we've got, as you can see on our screen, we've got footage there. We just sent Chuck down there with an iPhone. So he's filming that. Got nice access by the stairs and everything. Yeah. He'll whip up those stairs.
He can get anywhere, him.
He really can't he? But there is another plane landing as well. So this is Anchorage. It's 10:27 in the morning in Anchorage. There's going to be some kind of meeting. We won't be privy to the meeting. That'll be behind closed doors. Will there be a kind of... I doubt whether there'll be a Q&A. You might... It could be one of those things Trump says something on the plane, because he's just going to get back on the plane and go home, isn't he?
He loves the whole briefing on the plane thing, because he just gets to say whatever he wants. There's very few handlers as well on the plane with him. But the next 24 hours is going to be not just big for Trump, but big for the world. I mean, a lot is riding on this. No matter what the outcome is, something is going to come out of it. If you kind of catch my drift, I don't see the end of the war, but the direction for the rest of the next 30 years is probably going to come out of this meeting.
100%. Back to that question of being proud to be British. Sally says, I am proud to be British, but in the way I remember what that meant in the past. The issue for me is partly about current obvious unfairness towards the white British population, but mainly the erosion of our culture, the rise of Islam and the diminishing value of what it is to be a woman. Some of our cities and towns are no longer Britain to me. We need to do something, and quickly, before it's gone. And it's interesting. I know we can always look at, we can all look at stuff through rose-coloured glasses. There's a road round the corner from me at the moment that's being the whole road's being relaid, and so it's closed in the day, and they've done most of it. They opened part of it, but none of the cars have gone back in. So I drove down there the other day, down a completely empty road that's normally got about 200 cars in it. And as I drove down, I thought, wow, this is what it would have been like.
Yeah.
When this place was, there would have been no cars. It was a really odd feeling. Not that I even existed in those days, but it felt really interesting. It must have been so, the idea of that, and there will be people that would hanker after that kind of, I want that back. So we all have some rose-coloured glasses, or rose-tinted glasses. But I think Sally is right. There is a... if your country is going to change, and naturally it will, technology changes things, we get that, but you want those changes to be only for the good, really. That's what progress is meant to be, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
the next generation, is better than the previous one.
I see. This is the thing. I fall back on. There's an old, I think it's a Taoist comment, kind of phrase. Is it changes neither good nor bad? It simply is. So just because people presume progress to mean good, doesn't necessarily mean that's going to have progress.
But there should be.
Progress just means moving forward. How that moves forward is an interpretation.
Okay, let's take you up on that, because I tend to agree, and it's all subjective anyway. Blah blah blah. But there are some things that are demonstrably, objectively true. If roads are working better than they used to work, that is a tangible improvement, right? You want to see things better. Our roads today seem to be worse than they were 10 years ago. Our health service, you want to be better. The sense of fairness, you'd like to think.
Yeah, definitely. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of structural problems, but that's because we're not just going through a period of kind of change in terms of culture. We're going through a major industrial revolution. We're going through a new sense of what it is to live in the modern world. We've got AI is going to wipe out most jobs. Our health service is fundamentally out of date because the things that it's got to treat are so different. The world is radically different. We've got to stop clinging on to things and accept a new present. Now that means that things have to kind of improve in terms of making sure that we retain our culture, our identity, but it doesn't mean that identity has to be rooted in 1952. We have to kind of move with the times as much as the times are moving. Otherwise, you end up a bit of a Luddite, and I would remind people the Luddites didn't win. They might have thrown their clogs in the machines, but the machine still exists today. And unfortunately, too many people are trying to argue against. They're doing that. Who is it that stood trying to make the tide turn back? I can't remember who it was. Some emperor back in the day. He said,
"Oh, that's right."
Yeah, he tried to make the tide turn back. No, he didn't.
Caligula.
Somebody like that. Yeah. And it was like, this is the thing.
Let's hope it is.
Yeah, I know, somebody like that. That's why I didn't put a name to it. I'm learning that one. But don't get me wrong. There are huge problems, but if you're asking me, am I still proud to be British? Of course I am, because of the fact that this still exists. We can still have these debates. We don't live in a bit of the world where it's blowing up every 2 seconds. We don't live in a bit of the world where women are being actually subjugated. Don't get me wrong, we've got problems, but we've got to put them into perspective.
It was Caligula.
Was it? Perfect.
Absolutely. We know. I just instinctively thought it was.
Did Samaras send you a message?
What are you saying, Peter? Are you saying that I'm not capable of such heady intellect?
No comment.
I think he was, really.
It's a Friday afternoon.
And who can blame him? We haven't even got onto the unhinged TikTok migrant, but we'll come to that as well, because there's so much to get in. Loads of calls and comments as well. Dan says, I'm not a gambling man, but I'd put my house on the young men who grabbed a rifle and boarded a landing craft in 1944 for the sake of democracy and freedom of speech, that if they knew the world today, they certainly would not have done it. Yeah.
Well, there's an interesting point here, is that actually most of the press and most of the public debate around whether that generation would actually go on to fight is the same one we have about lazy young people now. If you actually look at the headlines around the kind of era of conscription, the same things were being said about the younger generation now as they said about them. So the greatest generation were once called lazy and self-entitled. So we have to be careful about how we interpret
So you're saying
history.
the younger generation now, which is me, obviously, I'm in that category. We are self-entitled. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what the press called them
Is that what you
the
old
day.
gits are saying
That's
about
what
us?
That's
what it is.
How old do you think I am? I might be from up north, but I'm not that old.
Listen, Peter Barnes is with us. It's great that he's in the studio. Lots to talk through, loads of subjects, more comment on the way. Round about 7:30 now, this is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
John in Guildford says, until you can explain why Jones got bail and Connolly didn't, this is very much two-tier. I mean, there's two different charges, as Peter rightly says. Connolly was jailed during the backdrop of riots, and that would be a factor because everybody.
She also pleaded guilty.
And she pleaded guilty.
That's the fundamental difference.
I have to say, I do tend to agree in part with John, because I think it is, well, it's explainable and it's not explainable. If you went round every courtroom any day of the week, no matter who's in power, you will see discrepancies all over the place. Why did a fellow in Plymouth get 3 years for drink driving, and for the exact same offence, the exact same amount of alcohol, a bloke in Newcastle on the very same day got nothing?
Yeah,
there's those stories are around all the time.
All the time.
I've discussed it for 20 years on this kind of genre.
Yeah, but it's the idea of it's why we have the sentencing guidelines, is to try to bring that as close as we can into parity. But you know, there are so many like contributing factors that go into each court case. Sometimes comparing even the same charges is sometimes a little irrelevant, because a lot of people are saying, like with Lucy Connolly, for example, oh, she's a mother. So are you saying that somebody without kids deserves less sympathy for if it was? You know, if you're playing the identity politics card, you have to be careful, because it can be played against you just as easily.
That's a fair point.
That's one thing that's always annoyed me with the Lucy Connolly kind of campaigners, is you're arguing one thing and then you're doing the exact same thing on the other hand, and I'm like, that doesn't kind of work out perfectly for me.
But it is rather, and Mrs Thatcher suffered from this as well, and hear me out on this, Pete. So Kia rhymes with two-tier, and it rhymes with free gear, and it rhymes with a load of other stuff. We once collated, I can't remember, I wish I'd kept the list. We did a big old list. There's about 50 things on it. So the two-tier Kia, in the same way that Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatcher, had that. Now, nobody's ever heard of Ted Short. No one knows who Ted Short is. I know who Ted Short is. Ted Short was the previous Labour Education Secretary. Do you know what one of the things he did as Education Secretary? Labour Education Secretary before Margaret Thatcher in a previous government. He got rid of school milk.
Oh,
nobody talked about it, so because Ted Short didn't rhyme with anything, and he was a bloke. So taking away the milk from children, you know, a woman doing that was the worst thing ever. So that stuck with her forever. She took school. Well, that wasn't quite what happened there. She insisted that they kept free school milk for those that needed it, and school milk for those who had health issues and needed it. She kind of fought against it, but collective responsibility in the cabinet, she had to run with it. But she became Herod as far as half the world was concerned.
Same with closing of the mines. Most mines actually closed under Harold Wilson, a Labour Prime Minister. They actually closed but yet she's the one known for closing all the mines. It's whether sometimes it's the kind of the narrative sometimes outspeaks the facts. But it's also one of the reasons that if you go into politics, don't get caught doing a certain thing, because sometimes the headline rather writes itself. Particularly in, say, for example, former Tory MP Chris Pincher should have been much more better behaved, considering his name was Pincher.
Yes, that kind of nominative thing, you know.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
Mean, if your name is Pincher, just don't
go into anything public.
Don't do any job, frankly. You know, you're just an open goal. This comes from Steve. Matt, listen to this, who says, it's bloody King Canute who reproved his courtiers, who said he could turn the tide.
That's it.
He set his throne on the shore and commanded the tide to stop.
That's it.
It didn't, of course. The location is marked as having happened where Ocean Village is now. Caligula, rubbish, says Steve.
Oh, well, there we go. And that's why I didn't put a name to it.
Wow, I think we have a debate now.
It sounds like Canute.
Seems our control room are very sure on the Caligula thing. Samara, our producer, is Australian. That's where the sentence ends.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there anything coming after that?
I just think each hour we should make that reference.
Yeah.
So she's staying out of this. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what her Antipodean connection is relevant to, but I've just made it relevant.
Every hour on the hour now we should make a reference to it.
So it was apparently King Canute.
Yeah. Well,
Peter's still not committing to either one of us. Have you noticed that?
Canute does sound rather right, I have to admit, because Caligula, I'm not sure. But, yeah, like I said, the point is that sometimes you can force things as much as you like, but it's not going to change it. But
that's very true.
Yeah, it's...
Let's talk about the TikTok guy, by the way, just briefly, because we didn't talk about this, because we know that not only did this fella film himself, you know, coming across the channel, having a nice time, explaining that he's, you know, had a lovely journey and he's going to stay in a lovely hotel. We then find out that this Guy had a viral TikTok tutorial about how to kill your wife. I mean, that's quite serious stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, so there is now under the border...
I mean, am I missing something here, Peter? That is quite serious.
Yeah, the more serious thing is, why was he here? He'd lived for 3 years in Germany, he'd lived for a year in France, and yet he smuggled himself over here and was being put up at the taxpayer's dime, and yet he's got this background. Why is he here? You know, there's a specific thing in the Border Security Act now that if you promote smuggling, you know, the trade of it, that is now a criminal offence. So that's what they'll try to charge him under, but he'll just claim human rights again. The fundamental failure of everything, why this won't get solved, is they won't pull out the ECHR. Until they do that, everything is going to continue. They can have all the stuff they like. It's, you know, the farce is going to continue, I'm afraid. But on this one, it's just ridiculous.
But isn't this a great example of where this is where you want a prime minister that goes, oh, we've heard about this guy. Yeah, he's staying in the such and such hotel in Leicester or whatever. I know what we'll do. We're going to go around there and go, oh, mate, you're the guy who did the TikTok video. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, come with us, fella. Where are we going? Stansted. Right, off we go. You're going back to where you came from, fella.
What's worse is
that's not going to happen.
This guy was in a hotel next to Heathrow, so I mean, like,
it would have been very easy.
Very
easy. Could have walked it. Well, we would have had to pay the taxi, wouldn't we? You could just walk to it.
Like
see that plane over there? Get on it, sucker, because there's a one-way ticket to wherever it is. This guy, his country of origin, whatever.
He was
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. But,
indeed.
You know, but this is the thing. We don't know who we're letting into the country until it is far too late. This is always a reactive, not a proactive process. But again, it is, once we find this stuff out, why are they still here? It is literally, the Prime Minister and the Labour Party do not have it in their DNA to pull out of this convention because they believe that everything is going to fall down without it. We existed very perfectly well without it for quite a long time. The reason it exists is because of the British, you know, teaching other people how to behave. It's rather ridiculous, but the Labour Party, and the Keir Starmer in particular, is of this worldview that without these kind of things, the world is going to end. And it is not. It is nonsense. But, you know, and yet again, it's going to be the taxpayers stomach up money, not only to prosecute this guy, but then to pay for his defence because he'll get legal aid, and then multiple times he'll get to reapply for asylum. It's just, it's infuriating. This comes down to the fairness aspect again. You know, it's me and Kevin get so worked up by these on a Friday every week.
We've got some more history lessons here.
Yeah, we'll go.
So Steve, he's back on. He says no. Caligula married his horse.
Oh.
What kind of mucked up person are you to marry
It's 2025. You can get married and claim whatever you are in this country.
That's true. But how twisted would you have to be? I'm all right, if it's a good-looking one, maybe. But you've got to be really off in a very different territory.
People do say horses are handsome, though, don't they? It's a very handsome horse. I've heard that phrase.
What are you, twisted?
Don't blame me. That's why I went to school.
Horses, actually, horses are kind of, they've got a majestic thing, like lions, you know. They have a certain majesty about them, which is beautiful. Marrying one, I'm not so sure.
No.
But we also hear from, and by the way, Steve says, Ocean Village is in Southampton. I did know that, because that's the kind of, do you remember Howard's Way? The TV program.
Yes,
I think that was all kind of down that neck of the woods.
I think so, yeah.
Derek in the Wirral says it was actually King Canute who thought he could control the tide and stop it coming in. There you go.
That's Canute.
You're being exposed here, Peter.
I didn't say the name. That's the important bit.
Well,
I knew the story.
I'm choosing to believe you actually did. I'm, if nothing,
it's my truth,
I'm
and
a
I'm
very
with
good revisionist, accusing others of that. Caroline says, I'm proud to be British, but not proud of the direction of this country. John's, I did read John's one. Joanna in Salisbury, proud to be British. No, not since socialism took over our lives. The judiciary, civil service, police, councillors, MPs, and all our important functions have failed to function with truth and fairness. None can now be relied on, excuse me, and are taking us down a dangerous route. They are destroying the character of anyone who does tell the truth or puts the UK first to get rid of them. Well, I often hear people, we get people message us in who say very seriously, and I know they say it about the Tories as well, that Keir Starmer wants to destroy this country. Now, that would be a very weird position for a Prime Minister, wouldn't it? To go, right, I want to become Prime Minister so I can destroy the country. Now, that doesn't mean he's not destroying the country, because he probably is through other mechanisms. But the idea that he wants to do that, it's actually he wakes up in the morning going, right, how can I destroy the country? Again, they said it about Thatcher, didn't they? They said, oh, Thatcher set out to destroy industry. Yeah. Well, no, she's changed industry. She didn't want to. She didn't just destroy something that was working really well. She destroyed stuff that demonstrably wasn't working well.
Yeah, it's this misunderstanding that Keir Starmer is motivated by the hatred of the country. He isn't. He just has a very different vision of what it means to be British. So for him, citizenship is just a piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything like it does to many people who are probably watching or listening now.
True.
You know, that is the real difference in worldview. Is that it's the new two-party politics now is nation state versus international globalism. Yeah. That's the new divide in our politics. And what we're seeing is parties and basically many countries being torn apart over this issue. Is, do you think Britain can go alone and be an independent state, or do you think Britain is part of a world group or new world government or whatever you want to call it? You know, this, and Starmer is very much in the latter, and that's that's where we find ourselves with the Prime Minister, who basically said very publicly he prefers Davos to Parliament. So, you know, he wasn't exactly shy about any of this stuff before the general election. You know, he was very open about his view of what Britain should look like, and yet people still voted for him.
I think he thought he was being cool when he said that. It's like, I'm not one of the old Westminster lot. You know.
Yeah, I think
I like it without really digesting the implications of Davos.
That's very Keir Starmer, because he doesn't really believe in anything. That's a common criticism there. Most people believe we're living through an era of Morgan McSweeneyism, not Starmerism, who's his chief of staff.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's a common criticism.
Good old Morg.
Yeah.
This one from Anne in Yorkshire, who says, I'm proud to be British, but I'm not proud of Britain because it's a hellhole. If you watch that woman standing next to Ricky Jones, she's in awe of what he said and just as bad. That was the bit that gets me every time. It wasn't just the one woman. Thank you, Anne, for that. It wasn't just the one woman. There were a few people. He got a big cheer. People clapped and cheered when he said that. And the fact is, he believes that. He believes that if you stand outside a migrant hotel, or if you mobilise a campaign against immigration in whatever form it might be, it could just be a petition online amongst concerned parents, you are, as far as he's concerned, you're a Nazi.
Yeah.
Because, as we said earlier in the hour, Peter, that's how you roll in that sort of Marxist world.
Yeah,
you are not just the opposition, you're the enemy. And you're not just the enemy, you're actually a filthy, dirty Nazi enemy, because you have the audacity to have a different view to me.
But then I would say the same of the same people that think Keir Starmer is out to destroy the country. It's the same mentality. Because we're living in an era of extremes and an era of outrage. So unfortunately, because we're having to be more outrageous to be heard, that is pushing the outrage even further and further to the extremes. We're living in the consequences of that. So you can be outraged by Ricky Jones, but then you've also got to be equally outraged by the people that say Keir Starmer wants to destroy the country. It's two sides of the same coin, I'm afraid.
Because it's the same sort of mental disorder almost.
But to a degree, it's the biggest problem we have is a lack of self-awareness, that we never realise how we are portraying ourselves to other people, and we think that we all think that we're the better versions of what we actually are, and I think that's what we're living through in our public discourse in particular, particularly in politics.
We are going to take a short pause. 03444991000. Call us on that. You can use a voice note there as well, or message 87222. Coming up on 10 to 8, this is Talk.
And if you haven't quite got the right grades to get into that university, then maybe it isn't the right one for you. But you know, first of all, we need to congratulate these young people who have worked absolutely solidly. We need to congratulate the teachers, the support staff, but most of all, the parents who have had to put up with these young, stressed-out people, you know, waiting for these results.
Well done, us.
Absolutely, well done, us. And I don't think it was that long ago, Julia, that we would have been receiving our results. So, you know, we can kind of think back to that kind of moment of joy.
Quite a way back for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This one from Don in Chelmsford. Ian, of course I'm proud to be British. Sadly, I suspect not many younger people know Wellington, Nelson or Churchill. Well, they're all insurance companies, aren't they?
Yeah, there was a poll out a few years ago that most people thought Nelson's column was for Nelson Mandela.
Seriously?
Seriously. It's one of the most depressing things I've ever read, and I've read a lot of depressing things.
That is shocking.
Yeah, but it doesn't surprise me, because I was saying to a friend of mine, he's from Italy, and that we don't learn about Britain in our schools. You don't learn really British history. You do a little bit on Tudors, and then you do World War II to death, but only up to the European aspect, and then that's it. That's all you do. You don't do anything in between.
When we were at school, we didn't do anything on... that's a great question, and you can answer this on 87222. What was missed out of your history lessons? We didn't do anything on the Holocaust. We did nothing on that at all. The only way... I had a Jewish drama teacher called Tessa Feynman, who had her own family story connected, very connected to the Holocaust and the camps and what happened. And she taught us about that. It wasn't even her job to teach us that. She felt strongly about it, and she did it sort of within the drama lesson, and kind of talked about her grandmother and what had happened and why it was important to remember it. But our actual history lesson was a lot of Tudor stuff. There was a lot of Henry VIII. There's a lot of Anne Boleyns.
We did that in
did all that on
like
caper.
primary school era.
Well, but where I grew up, you had to wait to secondary school to get that kind of stuff. You know, it's like you probably waited by some men in nursery school. Good old Wigan.
Yeah, they educate you well, both on the streets and in the classroom.
Absolutely right. But yeah, it's interesting what should or shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And now we've got all sorts of people monkeying around with curriculums.
Yeah, but I have the same thing on the other side. You can't just have everything being Britain is a wonderful place and we never did anything wrong. Again,
we never did anything wrong, Peter.
Yeah, I know. According to some people.
Where did we do anything wrong?
Well,
seriously.
Well, a lot of people have a lot of different opinions, and that is history. You know, and that's what we should be learning. There is not such a thing as one version of history. There's lots of different types.
Plato always said the United Kingdom is the one place that I would gladly live in.
Yeah. Was he an insurance company too?
Yes, I think he said it to Socrates before they. Apparently, I did
Socrates taught Plato. Plato taught Aristotle.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Socrates never wrote anything down.
No,
I think I'm right in saying.
He died by a hemlock poisoning, but voluntarily as well.
I thought he died in the sea.
No, stop bringing the sea into this. Honestly, we have to let's move on from.
So apparently,
Greece.
Caligula, there is a sea-based. What was the connection to Caligula? Caligula did declare war on the sea.
Yeah. Can you try to turn it back? And Caligula married his horse.
In the sea?
I don't think everything happened in the sea.
Was that a horse or just a big
Could have been a seahorse.
Seahorse! It was a flipping seahorse.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous bit of kit a seahorse is, by the way.
I know, yeah.
Did you know it's the males that give birth?
That's the one thing everybody knows about seahorses. That's the one thing nobody knows anything else.
I genuinely thought I was the only person that knew that. Yeah, you just completely burst.
I have a tendency to do that.
Seahorse-based bubble.
Yeah.
Here's a comment from Angie who says that the UK and our allied FEPOs, Far East prisoners of war, were the brave of the brave. I'm glad the King and Queen were at the national service today, but disappointed the next generation of royals were not present. Yes, proud to be British, but worried about the future. There must have been a reason for that. I mean, I can't imagine they would have just forgotten.
Because a lot of the ones who have survived are now centenarians. We're unlikely to have another kind of big event with that many.
Yeah.
Because there's not many surviving, obviously, and it's a really good point that the next generation of royals weren't there, and it's over 12,000 British soldiers perished in POW camps.
Indeed,
yeah, and it's a staggering number of people that we never hear about.
These were among the worst of the worst, as Angie makes the point there, and that was how the war ended eventually. Well, thanks to a big old bomb that landed, of course. But then they surrendered, and that was that. But you're right, it is a forgotten era of history. But today is VJ Day. What would our forefathers make of the world today? What would they look at when they look at what is happening in Birmingham with the flag ban, in hotels in Epping with all manner of tomfoolery going on, TikTok migrants, all manner of, I mean, where do we start on the list of things that have gone wrong? What would they make of today's world if somebody had said 8 decades on, you've just been tortured for your life? Some didn't, survive, as Peter was saying. But 8 decades on, what would they have imagined then the United Kingdom might look like? I don't think it would look like this. This one comes from Mark in Norwich. Lucy Connolly wasn't convicted of incitement. Lucy was convicted of stirring up racial hatred. Was it stirring up? I thought it was incitement.
It wasn't. So he was charged with encouraging. She was publishing materials with the intention of inciting. So it was the publishing the materials aspect of it that separates the two out.
Yes, and it's the word incitement is right. In that, because I don't think there's in legalese. I don't think stirring up.
No, I think it's encouragement and enticement.
But I understand what Mark is saying. So hopefully, Reform UK will launch a private prosecution against Ricky for the same thing. We need justice this time. Otherwise, I think all hell will break loose on a scale that will make the BLM protest look small and mild. But of course, the big difference, the distinguishing difference, is that she pleaded guilty. Had she not pleaded guilty, I suppose the problem with all of those Twitter, I mean, it's ridiculous that people are in court or getting arrested for Twitter posts. Yeah. But if that's what they're going to do, you couldn't really not plead not guilty because it was there for everyone to see. Yeah,
there's also the idea that they were somehow encouraged to plead guilty and that they would get reduced sentences. There was all this story and narrative behind it.
But I don't know if is there any evidence of that?
Well, or is the only way that you could point that there is the speed to which they were prosecuted and pushed through the courts. Considering the backlog that the courts now stand, the fact that they were able to get it done within 2 weeks or however amount of time it was, it just seemed to say that there was some political pressure put on these situations, which is a huge problem if that is true. But
they did that in 2011, didn't they?
Yeah, and they did
in
it
2011 during the riots.
They do it every
These
time
things happened, and there was a
the
student.
Nightingale Court.
There was a student who got I think 18 months for nicking a bottle of water.
Yeah, there was. And,
I mean, for God's sake.
Who was Director of Public Prosecutions during that time? Keir Starmer.
Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir, didn't even know how two-tiered he was back then. Back in the day.
Yeah, back when he was nothing but a glorified civil servant, which is all he ever was.
That is your man. Peter Barnes is with us. Lots to come in the next section. We are going to be chatting as well, and we always look forward to chatting to Harry Cole. He's going to be joining us in the next part as well. The Sun at Large, Sun's editor at large, on the line with us to talk about what is going on. Donald Trump and Putin. They both landed now. I mean, there is a difference in aeroplanes. That's all I
same
can say.
coloured flag, slight differences.
Yeah, Putin's got a thatch roof and an outside toilet by the looks of things. It's he's going old school USSR on this one. Let's get the news at 8 o'clock now. Back after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Ian Collins in for Kevin O'Sullivan. Kevin O'Sullivan was standing in for us a little earlier. We kind of did a wife swap, but with microphones. Welcome along. Just gone 8 o'clock. Peter Barnes is with us in the studio. So much to talk about. We're crossing over to the States in a second to talk to Harry Cole as well, the Sun's editor at large. Putin has landed. Putin has landed now, as well as Trump. What was interesting, Peter, about that? We were talking about the choreography of, two leaders arriving, particularly when the stakes are high. They arrived not quite simultaneously, but there wasn't much in it.
Yeah.
Because it would have looked terrible if one had kept the other waiting.
Yeah,
These are the kind of things that you show disrespect.
Yeah. It's these things will be choreographed within an inch of their life, like minute by minute will be planned, because what you don't want to do is give someone an excuse to leave, somebody an excuse to find an upset of some variety, and it will all have been planned out months and months and months ago. About who arrives in what order, how long they get on the runway, and all the rest of it. It's the operation to put these things together is astronomical, and the pressure is just insane.
Yes, absolutely right. If you look at all your TV monitors, then they are, particularly YouTube where you're watching us, both planes are there, both on the tarmac, both with the steps ready to go. Yeah. So this really is choreographed.
Oh, yeah.
Let's speak to a man who knows his way around a presidential event. Harry Cole, the Sun's editor at large, with this afternoon, good evening even, Harry. How you doing?
It's good afternoon here. It's good evening to you guys.
Indeed. You know how these things work. This is very important, the optics, isn't it? You were never going to have one arrive and then 3 hours later the other eventually shows up. Almost within minutes they've turned up, now simultaneously, both still inside their planes, both on the tarmac. The steps are ready to go. Are they going to walk down in unison in a kind of sort of, I don't want to make too much light of this, in a sort of Morecambe and Wise kind of fashion?
It's unclear, but what is obvious is that the Americans have put on quite the show for the arriving Russian delegation. Vladimir Putin will be forced to pose in front of some F-22s, the sort of very high-class American fighter jet, which they've parked 4 of them on the runway under a big sign saying Alaska 2025, where I think they're going to do a sort of handshake and photo op. But a bit of a baller sort of power play from Trump there to make the Russians stand in front of the very jets that are buzzing around the skies, defending against their own air force.
Yeah, and that's not an accident, is it?
No, God, no. Donald Trump is a TV guy at heart, right? He knows how to put on a show.
Yeah.
Think about how he knows what that image looks like, and I imagine the Russians are probably slightly chewing their fists at that image. And one thing they did do in a similar sort of obnoxious power move is that they served chicken Kyiv on the flight over to the journalists and the Russian delegation. Ate chicken Kyiv, which was obviously a sort of a dig at the Ukrainians, but frankly the closest that the Russians have got to the Ukrainian capital so far.
Yes, to digest, subjugating it, digesting it, however you wish to look at it. But you're right, Harry, and something like you can hear Trump almost in the meeting saying, get some planes out there, get some planes on the runway, we want the planes there, make it happen. And that's how clearly this administration, but maybe any other, they need to say, look, we're neutral in this sort of. But that has landed Trump with some levels of criticism, hasn't it? Because shaking hands with a man that's invaded another country, essentially, is tricky. He doesn't want to be all smiles and hugs. It's not a sort of Starmer Zelensky moment, is it?
No, look, just being in the room, just the summit happening for the Russians is quite a dramatic step. They've brought over 100 Russian journalists with them. This is really a big moment. Them. They have been, to coin a Cold War phrase, they've been in the cold, the diplomatic deep freeze, for 3.5 years now since their invasion of Ukraine. Well, actually longer than that. They go back to the invasion of Crimea, booted out of the G8. There was a time 10, 15 years ago when we were talking about great resets with the Russians and doing trade. Look, they are international pariahs. Just having the meeting is clearly a significant step for him, for Putin, and he's obviously going to make a big deal out of that. Now, look, you can argue the toss on this one. Keep them in the cold, keep the bombing of civilians, keep the war going on, keep the meat grinder of all those troops being killed on both sides going, or have a crack at it and see if there is a deal to be done, see if there is a ceasefire to be achieved. Look, people are going to disagree on that. That's a fundamental point of principle. But it's clear that Donald Trump has taken the stance, this sort of self-described sort of president of peace, wants to see if there is room for a deal. But he said on the way over here, on the way over to Alaska, a 7-hour flight from DC, he did an interview with Fox News. He said he will walk out. He will walk out if the terms are not acceptable to him. So I expect there could be some fireworks later.
Yeah, and the significance of Putin on Western soil is huge, isn't it? It's interesting, Harry. I was watching. And it shows how things can change globally and the sort of geopolitical landscape very quickly. I was watching a documentary on 7/7. There was a Netflix documentary, really interesting stuff. I'd completely forgotten this part, that Blair was hosting the G20 on the day of that happening in Scotland. And they included a picture of the G20. And, of course, Putin is there. Putin is there back then. He was one of the boys. You know, he was part of the club. As we speak, by the way, Donald Trump is now coming down the steps, Harry. So he's the first leader of the two to exit Air Force One, exit his plane, and make it down to this very important moment. Again, it's about the choreography, Harry, and that would have been agreed, I guess. Trump first, it's his territory. Is that fair?
Yeah, but obviously American territory. So here comes Vladimir Putin taking a grip on the handle there as he comes down the Russian plane.
A little swifter, though.
In itself is controversial for the Russians, given that they sold it to the Americans for $7 million, I think, in about 1860, to pay off their debts from the Crimean Wars. So, I mean, this is a land that has some significance for Putin as well. Obviously, it's geographically halfway between Washington and Moscow, basically, about a 7-8 hour flight for them both. But no, the every little detail of this event, even though it's been rapidly thrown together in the last 2 weeks or so, will be being argued out. But no, you can see what's happening here. It looks like they're going to be shaking hands, both coming down the red carpet. I mean, serious moment. Last time that Donald Trump met Vladimir Putin was in 2019. He was still haunted then, really, by the sort of allegations that the Russians had meddled in the presidential election. He was somehow an illegitimate president. Obviously, he meets him in a much more powerful position now on his own turf, but still quite a risk for the White House to see how this goes.
It's interesting. They're both walking on separate red carpets. I'm assuming those carpets meet at some point and don't go off in completely different directions.
Well, meet by the F-22s, I suspect.
Yeah.
There's a little podium for them to pose up on in the shadow of the warplanes. But no, you can see there's someone with an eye for a camera has had a hand in these plans. Yeah,
and President Trump has come to a standstill. He's completed the point that he's got to stop at this on this red carpet. It looks like he's about to greet Vladimir Putin. There's the big handshake.
There we go. That's the moment.
It's cordial, but it's not over the top. Would that be reasonable, Harry?
I think so. Look, it's business like there's a ginormous pile of rubble behind them, which
yeah, what's that all about?
Perhaps might not have been
Someone didn't get the memo.
Exactly, but look, there's the handshake. This is obviously a key moment in Trump's presidency. He promised that he could end the Ukraine war within 24 hours of taking back control of the White House back in January. He's obviously bitten off more than he can chew on that front, but some people never thought this meeting would happen. You know, the Russians were playing hardball. Others argue that perhaps actually the effect of sanctions, global sanctions on the Russian economy, have brought Putin to the table. Recollections vary on that, but clearly this is a shot. They've got one shot at this. Some say they're going to talk for 6 hours. The Russians were briefing on the way over. They want to talk for 6 hours. Interestingly, Donald Trump's swerved a one-on-one meeting with Putin. It was scheduled that he was going to have some time alone, but actually now he'll be joined by translators and his Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Ambassador Steve Witkoff. So they will avoid that fascinating sort of two global leaders, two superpowers. Well, one superpower and one wannabe superpower in the room together. But interesting that they've managed to sort of duck out of that.
Is that in any shape or form a kind of nod of respect to Zelensky? Because, of course, he's not there. To have the meeting has bothered him in the first place, but to have it in just the two of them talking about his country is a kick in the proverbials. Or would have been.
Yeah, look at this image, though. So Vladimir Putin now being forced to get into the beast, into the presidential limo, the American, sort of that iconic American car. This is really on Donald Trump's terms. This is a meeting. You know, this is his hood, right? It's his planes. It's his warplanes are behind him. It's Air Force One as the backdrop. He's clearly the host. He came down the steps first, and now he's made Putin get in his car. So, having just said there wouldn't be a one-on-one meeting, they're going to have a little short drive to the where the actual talks will happen. So there's a couple of heavies and I suspect a translator in the car. But formally the talks will be wider bilaterals with officials in the room.
Yeah. That is rather interesting, but again, that would have been, one would assume, Harry, that would have been pre-agreed with the Kremlin, that this is how it would happen.
Yeah.
Some might say, somewhat of a risk even to Putin to shed his own security detail in favour of the Americans.
Well, looking at the size of some of those meatheads,
That's right.
Some of them look distinctly Russian.
You could be right.
I suspect there's some form of look. All of these things get negotiated behind the scenes. Normally, as a state visit, so to take President Trump's state visit to the United Kingdom next month, that's been months and months and months in the planning. This meeting really came about in the last, was only really on in the last sort of 14 days or so. So all the normal diplomatic sort of protocols and wrangling and haggling over these sort of details would have had to be very, very much condensed. So you do wonder whether Trump has slightly bounced Putin into this. It's the imagery we're seeing now. That this is the first time that Putin's been in America for almost a decade, and he's kind of playing Trump's tune. He's dancing to Trump's tune here.
Indeed, and away they go. One would assume, Harry Cole, that the meeting from the tarmac of Anchorage is not too far down the road. That would be standard fare, right?
No, and we're going to get the extraordinary prospect after this meeting, how long it lasts. Donald Trump is due to fly back to Washington in a matter of hours, but the Kremlin is saying they want 6 hours of serious talks. Which, God, can you imagine being a fly on the wall for that? There's scheduled to be a press conference between the two of them where they will stand side by side. And take questions from the press, which is not something that Donald Trump does regularly, but Vladimir Putin does occasionally, and I imagine that's going to be quite the box office.
Yeah, I would have thought so, and we were all wondering how this pans out, and of course, again, you've been to many political press conferences, post-summit press conferences, Harry. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes they go on forever, sometimes they're very brief.
Yeah, often in these situations, like the G7, the G20, as we discussed earlier, big NATO summits, all of the sort of the communiques, the sort of agreements, they're all stitched up months in advance by Sherpas and officials, and actually they're very much sort of photo ops where they just come and sign and grip and grin and shake hands, and then they take some questions. It's all sort of stitched up before. This is a really kind of rare moment where actually we don't know how this is going to go. Donald Trump saying he could walk out. Vladimir Putin obviously could totally end things. The White House playing down expectations in the last 24, 48 hours, saying they don't expect maybe a ceasefire to happen today. This is sort of a preliminary meeting. Obviously, there's been a big pushback from the Europeans, from Britain, from France, from Germany, from Ukraine, saying that they need to be in the room when these decisions are made. It can't be a sort of bilateral deal between America and Russia, and actually they need there needs to be a broad agreement. We just don't know what's going to happen. I have a sneaking suspicion there's going to be some fireworks, and I wonder whether actually we could see President Trump actually pull stumps on today. He says there's about a 25% chance of that happening. Yeah, I wonder if it's a little higher.
Listen, Harry, stay with us. We're going to be back with more from Harry Cole in a few moments, editor-at-large for The Sun, speaking to us here on the programme. And, of course, the full extent of anything we get to hear about what is happening in that meeting between the two leaders. The smart money, Peter Barnes, is that you don't hear Jack for about 6 hours.
Yeah, roughly.
You don't hear anything, and then at the end of it, there may be this press conference. It could be Q&A.
Could be. But let's not forget that, Trump threw Zelensky out of the White House and threw that press conference clean with it. So, when we say we don't know what's going to happen, we genuinely just don't know. And anybody who says that they do is not being very honest with you.
It's but it is, as Harry Cole was saying, the idea that Putin has just jumped in the back of the beast, the presidential
that surprised
limo.
me. That has surprised me.
That's really interesting.
But I thought Harry brought up a really interesting point, is about Putin back in, and Putin in the club, as you were saying. In reality, I think Trump is more isolated now, because Putin is now back in the international community. He's back on the world stage in a way. America is much more on its own than it has been, given the separations between Western allies, NATO kind of crumbling a little bit. You've got these whole new relationships with America occurring. It's looking more that realistically, it's actually Trump is living in an island of strangers, to borrow a phrase, than Putin is right now. It's a really odd situation that we find ourselves in, which is what makes this even more fascinating. And there is so much on the line, and we just don't know. And it's my inner political nerd has never been happier. But
no, this is
actual
so,
history. It's live.
This is so pivotal.
It really
it's
is.
So pivotal, not just for what happens with Ukraine, but the wider relationship of the West with Putin.
Like you said, the Zelensky not being there is a very controversial issue. Two world leaders carving up another country. That doesn't look particularly good, does it? But let's not forget, this is the 6th time these two have met. And Trump has walked away with not very much, which is where this kind of whole fear is: is he going to sell the cart before the horse and all that kind of stuff.
Peter Barnes is with us on the programme. Harry Cole, the Sun's editor at large, also with us. We're back to Harry in a couple of moments' time for the latest on what is happening. The significance of this meeting. Will Zelensky pop up on the next one? That was alluded
cameo
to.
appearance.
A cameo appearance. Mr. Trump said, well, I can come along if you'd like me to. Well, where's it likely to go? Where does the smart money suggest this is going to end? Details on the way. You'll hear everything here live on Talk. You don't want to be going anywhere else. Don't know what that channel hopping malarkey is for fools, frankly. Stay where you are. Keep it here. It's Ian Collins in for Kevin O'Sullivan on the Political Asylum. 8:20. This is Talk.
And if you haven't quite got the right grades to get into that university, then maybe it isn't the right one for you. But first of all, we need to congratulate these young people who have worked absolutely solidly. We need to congratulate the teachers, the support staff, but most of all the parents who have had to put up with these young, stressed out people, waiting for these results.
Well done, us.
Absolutely, well done, us. And I don't think it was that long ago, Julia, that we would have been receiving our results. So, we can kind of think back to that kind of moment of joy.
Quite a way back for me.
welcome to Talk. This is where we absolutely speak common sense and reflect the views of people around the United Kingdom. The very thing that's killing children, his words, he's not banning. As long as you pay £12.50. Sick note Britain. It is Talk, and it wouldn't be filling in for Kevin O'Sullivan if you didn't have a moment fiddling with your headphones because they won't go in correctly, or they're hanging out the side of your head, or your shirt's gone into another postcode or something. Very standard stuff. Peter Barnes is with us on the programme. Kevin back on Monday at 7 o'clock. It's like a one-night only thing.
Yeah, it is,
really.
yeah, for one night only.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Were you about to say something, Peter? You kind of pointed to some very what looked like very studious notes.
No, so this is the thing. Before every episode, I do about 2 hours prep.
That looks like Nostradamus' prediction.
Do like 2 hours prep on everything that's happened in the week.
I love that. That's like, yeah, if you took that to a chemist, they'd make it up for you, wouldn't they?
I should have been a doctor. I have doctor's handwriting.
Nothing wrong with that.
Honestly, yeah, it's illegible.
Dan in Kent says, I can understand why Talk are not talking about the 13th of September and the March for Patriotism because the mainstream media can't be endorsing the far right. I deliver timber across the southeast and this is everything British builders are talking about. I just pray the government read the room. That's an interesting one, that, because on previous... Well, there is an issue, really. Every time... You will know this, Peter. Every time there's a protest...
Yeah.
No matter how big it is, somebody will always go. Every group that organises, they never cover our protest.
Yes. Yeah.
The reality is the media tend not to cover any protest.
That's
that
true.
Seems to be the general rule of thumb, because you'd be doing it every flipping day.
Also, I noticed that no one can count. There's always, like, there was tens of thousands, or there's hundreds of thousands, and, like, everyone loses the ability to count, which I always find quite interesting, no matter which bit of the media you're looking at.
You know what the biggest protest was?
Fox hunting.
I think that was the second.
Oh, it's the Iraq War one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fox hunting was the second one.
Yeah.
This is pro-Fox hunting, not anti. Yeah, interesting. When Labour came in.
Yeah, but this is always the thing where people talk about how effective are protests if the biggest one in history didn't make an ounce of difference.
What's fascinating about the kind of Stop the War coalition, whatever it was, all of that was organised without social media.
All of it, yeah.
So there was no Facebook or anything like that.
This is the problem where you get echo chambers, where when people say this is all everybody's talking about, it is in your little bit of the internet.
Yes.
Because people get siloed in, and people go, everybody I know is voting this way. Well, that's because everybody you know is channeled into the same algorithm and being shown the same thing.
There's possibly something in
one of the
that.
big problems we have in our politics and the breakdown of the country is we're all having a unique experience.
Yeah.
So because of that, when there's no social unity, we're not having the same cultural experience anymore, and that is affecting our politics in a huge way.
A massive way. So you think that is kind of the root of...
Yeah.
It's cultural.
Yeah, 100%. Andrew Breitbart once said that politics is downstream from culture, so whatever is in the culture ends up in your politics.
Yeah.
So in our culture right now, we have a very atomized, so very individual natured, everything is always your truth and you're this, you're that. There's no shared historical moment, there's no shared kind of cultural drive anymore. So because of that, our politics is becoming more fractured as everybody tries to kind of associate with each other. It's a complete mess, and social media was basically like pouring petrol on a problem. But and lockdown didn't help by any stretch of the imagination. We then cut ourselves off humanly, let alone on a kind of internet level. It's just chaos.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Andrew Breitbart there, because I mean, Breitbart, his story is really interesting in that probably an argument, because him and what's her name, Huff, from the Huffington Post.
Yes, Arianna Huff.
Arianna Huff, yeah. They were kind of together. They sort of started together, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he was one of the first, I can't remember the first website, but there was a point when his web pages broke a significant story on Capitol Hill. And that was the moment when they all thought, hang on a second, this internet thing might be serious.
Yeah, there was another one, wasn't there, alongside Breitbart, because she started the Huffington Post, and then he did Breitbart.
He did Breitbart,
but there was somebody else at the same time, and it was a huge story. I can't remember who it was. But that something was the moment of internet journalism, the kind of the rise of the independent journalist, and you know what people say is the mark of the legacy media's downfall and all the rest of it. But you know, it's one of these things where it's been falling for an awfully long time, and yet it's still here.
Indeed. But back to the mainstream media point. I hear what Dan is saying. And these previous sort of, I don't know whether they'd been quite called sort of patriotism marches before. But I've mentioned them every single time they've happened.
Yeah.
I haven't advertised them, not because I didn't want to, because it's not on our.
Yeah.
It's not really part of to advertise anything in that respect. But it gets mentioned that it's coming up, and then the following week after it's happened. We had loads of people call in and say, "Yeah, I was there." It was almost like a coronation thing. It was people were sitting in deck chairs and
there was
waving
some
flags.
Celebration one, wasn't there?
Celebration.
Yeah.
The problem, a bit like any protest. I know this isn't quite a protest, the March for Patriotism, or maybe it is a kind of a protest in some respects. But it's all down to who else turns up, isn't it? And that's when the problem starts.
Always.
So you can go, okay, this group of people, they're not far right. In fact, I wouldn't imagine most people who would go would be what you'd call far right. They're not, Nick Griffin or in that but you will doubtless get other splinter groups that will show up that are in that category, and that's the bit that people focus on, which comes back to, if you want to make a convincing argument about the problem with migration in hotels in your neck of the woods, do not paint your buttocks into a St George's flag, because you will just be written off, maybe unfairly, but you'll be written off
9 times out of 10 it is completely unfair.
As some kind of dodgy nut job who was probably part of the National Front.
Yeah,
100%. You sort of always have to play a game.
Yeah,
but I sense that's the problem with marches.
Yeah, like you said, it's the people that turn up that suddenly change the narrative. That they become the story of whoever's turned up and whatever the kind of circus they bring with them. And no matter who that could be on the left or on the right, but the protests and all this kind of very public stuff, it's got to be very PR managed, because what you've got to convince, and this is what they learned in the civil rights movement in America, is it's all about getting your middle American, your kind of lower middle class, upper working class person to empathise with you. If you look like the thug, you're not going anywhere. And unfortunately, for too long, that movement has not helped themselves with, like you said, with having a bulldog tattoo on their forehead. You're not convincing anybody that you're the reasonable person in the room, rightly or wrongly. It's all optics.
And the chances are you're a completely reasonable person, but it won't come across
all
like
it takes is one viral TikTok of a 3-second clip of a person doing something that tarnishes an entire movement. And you've got to be so careful with it. Now with social media and everything, it is, it's one of those things where sometimes it's better not to do the protest and to do kind of politics in a different way.
To do something else. Well, that's why it fascinates me on what's the most effective way of winning the argument about the problem with mass illegal immigration, what is happening in hotels, social cohesion, clear and demonstrable disproportionality in certain crimes, all of these things. What is the most powerful argument?
This is why it's so powerful now, is that the migrant crisis is no longer we don't like foreigners. It's the public safety aspect. It's about crime. And it's also, particularly, it's about sexual assault and sex crimes. That is a very powerful narrative that will attract a lot of people to say, well, wait a minute. I just thought they just didn't like foreigners. They've actually got a point here. And because we've got the data now, we've got the evidence behind it, as the kids say, we've got the receipts, it's harder to kind of write them off. And so the reframing of the argument around public safety has completely thrown the government in a lot of these kind of refugees welcome people, because they have no answer to it. Because they've got no answer, it makes them even more on the back foot.
See, it's really tricky, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Somebody tweeted, and I can't find it now, but it's something I've raised before, a kind of newfangled, and I wouldn't even say it's a right-wing thing. When did we start calling ourselves patriots? That's not a British thing.
No,
it sounds
an American thing.
It's an American thing.
Yeah,
but that also, to many people, it was Ken in Dover, who is, by a weird coincidence to Dan in Kent, is also going on the 13th, but puts in brackets at the end of his tweet, "I will not call myself a patriot because that's what Yanks do."
Yes, It's one of the reasons I don't like flag wavers and things like that. It's that kind of wrapping yourself up in the flag. It's a way of kind of, I think, saying, well, I just believe in Britain more. It's not an answer to a question. You could be as patriotic as you like by waving flags. For me, patriotism is coming with a solution, coming with answers. Well, they always say that a martyr wants to die for his country, but a hero would rather live in it. And that's the kind of the motto that I kind of live by.
There's nothing wrong with being patriotic. It's just literally the singular word, patriot. To describe yourself, and when you get kind of somebody who's a proper proud Brit on the TV, whether it's a Tommy, a Bob, a Dan, whoever it happens to be, it just sounds really weird when someone in a vaguely Cockney accent says, I'm a patriot.
It's also because
we're going to go and have a
example,
piece of pie after this.
the
And
St.
it's just
George's
like
flag.
weird.
Yeah, the St. George's flag was co-opted by far-right groups during the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and probably a bit before that. So that's the connotations of the images and the symbolism of it makes people very uneasy. So that's one of the reasons people have to rein that stuff back, because again, it's putting people off. You might be very patriotic, pro-British, but if you want to win, it's better than because you want to be effective, or do you want to be?
I don't think the word patriot sounds right wing.
Yeah.
I just think it sounds something from Texas.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
I don't mean the DIY store. I'm talking.
God. Yeah. No, but
There's
you're right.
a cultural reference for the kids.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it is interesting, that one, because it makes us uncomfortable, and I think it's because the flag was co-opted by groups that made us very uncomfortable in our politics, and I think that's probably where it comes from. So it's interesting to see that it's coming back. And whether it's being kind of endorsed by the country is a different matter. But I see it a lot on the right now, particularly with Reform and Advance UK and all it's very patriotic, the Britishness.
I'm a patriot.
It's
like, no, that's not a word we use. Really.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and again, it's wrapping
leave that to the
yourself on
Yanks.
the flag. Yeah,
we've got our own words of being proud to be British. 0344 499 1000. That is where you'll find us. The time 8:30. Keep it here. It is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is from Lee, who says, before you go tonight, I'd like to know whatever happened to the Creatures of the Night. Now, the Creatures of the Night was a show that we used to do on the old Talk Radio, and it carried on Talk Sport, did it for absolutely years, through the night. So it was essentially four guys in our 20s just chewing the fat and talking about stuff on the radio. Now every other podcast does this.
It's called
every other
podcast
podcast
industry.
does it. Yeah, we were talking to Chuck, the producer out there. About that, and it was golden and magical times, and we didn't have an agenda. We didn't know anything about radio very much. We talked about music, we talked about girls, we talked about film.
Sounds like every pub conversation.
It was all of that, and it was funny. What happened to all the? And there were a sort of cast of characters because it changed. You know, the work experience person would be on air with us, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, we'd have that. Yeah, I'm still in touch with, Mikey Boy Hansen, who was my producer at the time, still in touch with him, Lee, if that's of interest to you. A couple are sadly no longer with us, some of the younger ones, sadly. But maybe there's a book in that. If I thought anybody would buy it, I'd write it. But I'm not convinced that maybe it'd just be Lee, you buy a copy,
I'd probably buy a copy of it.
And me Auntie Maureen, I'm sure. Betty says, bit ironic talking about isolated, tailored experience to the Talk family. Have a great show. I don't even understand that.
Oh, they're basically accusing us of that we're just a silo as well.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
On what you're talking about. Well, yeah, but you're acknowledging the silo.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yes.
I know.
Nigel, Alaska meeting. If rumours of Russia funding Trump in the 80s are true, will Putin be holding all the aces? And this meeting is just a sideshow to deflect the Epstein scandal.
Well, to be honest, the one thing that this is really about is actually whether Russia can exist for very long, because its economy is in the tank. So we're looking at, the IMF projections have gone down from 1.5% growth to 0.9%. That's quite a big drop. Its economy in 2023 went up by 3.6%, and it's gone down every year this war has gone on. The fundamental reality is that a year ago, there was no way Putin was ever going to come to the table, let alone himself. This is the big marked difference. This is why everybody is so shocked as to why he's on American soil and he's allowing Trump to kind of dictate this. Now, a lot of people will say that's just Putin playing games. Arguably right, but there is a lot more content, a lot more to go at this time, and it is all unprecedented. We don't know what's going to happen, but the economic aspect for Putin is a big one. There's only so long your economy can be geared towards war, and unfortunately, we're starting to see the decline of the Russian economy. And when the Russian economy falls, that's usually when leaders fall.
This comes from David, who says, Ian, at least pronounce patriot the British way and not the American way. Well, well, I think you've rather missed the point, David. The point I'm making is that the people I'm criticising don't pronounce it the British way. They pronounce it the American way, which is, we're all patriots.
Yeah, you can't help but say it like that.
Would you call yourself a patriot, then?
Yeah.
If you were going to...
Well, you must do, if it's the British way of saying it. But yeah.
But
again, I don't really like using the words. So.
Indeed, that is rather my point, though, that David is making, is that this British use of the American.
Oh, the worst one is the word liberal. So the liberal definition in America is to mean more left wing. Liberal in Britain, we're all liberals in Britain. Yeah. Like the birth of democracy comes from liberalism and all the rest of it. I really hate the kind of nastiness that the Americans added to the word liberal. I'm a liberal. I'm proud to be a liberal. We are all liberals.
Oh, as a kind of pejorative.
Yeah.
You're just a liberal, like a mad lefty.
Yes, that's basically what it now means in America. It's not the same over here.
No, it's not the same.
And that one really infuriates me because, everything births out of liberalism.
Yes. And so, when you say to a conservative, to an American, you're a liberal conservative or a conservative liberal. Yeah. They're kind of a bit freaked out by that. It's like a clash of how can you be both?
Yes, That's why, American conservatism and British conservatism are two different things.
Yeah, as I often say to America, shut up.
Yes,
sometimes much. Just simmer down over there, for God's sake.
There's a great line in a TV show that says, "Why does every day involve a fight with an American?"
That's a good point. The most high-profile man in America, Donald Trump, is currently meeting with President Putin. They arrived at the airport, Anchorage Airport in Alaska, around about half an hour ago, got out their planes almost in tandem, and they then jumped in the same limo and off they've gone to start their meeting. Various reports say it could be an hour long, some say it could be 6 hours long. We will watch with interest. Let's take some calls. Mandy in Northumberland starts us off. On that question, Mandy, of being proud to be British, what are your thoughts? Evening.
Hello, Ian. Oh, it's lovely to see you.
And you too, Mandy. Well, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
I am very, very proud to be British, born and bred in Britain, but I hate the way the country is going. I really do. And I'm only 50, and I'm quite frightened, actually. But on a light note, I love this show. I really, really do. And I love all the presenters, but I think how sad is it? I'm sitting on a Friday night and there's two of my favourite men sitting in my living room.
Well, no, that's perfectly normal behaviour, frankly. That should win you. Yeah, you should be elevated to sort of the House of Lords for that kind of way of living.
Lovely. Honestly, I don't know if I've got a crush on you or what. Both of you. I love both of you.
Well, that's great to hear. Mandy, in terms of being proud to be British, I mean, obviously life changes. We all know that. Our grandparents would have said, it was much better in our day, when I think even Socrates made a comment about, about kids of today, etc. So every generation has had a moan about what it used to be like. Are we imagining this sort of decline, or is it very real, do you sense?
I think it's very real.
Yeah.
Very real. I've got two girls, 27 and 19.
Funny
and,
names.
They, no, that's that ages.
Yeah.
But they don't. They don't. I am patriotic. I'm very I'm an ex-army wife.
Nice.
And they, I don't know, they don't get it. And I try to install it to them, and I have since they've been very young, but they've trails off and they don't really care.
Yeah.
And that really boils me.
There is something on that, isn't there? And I don't know. That's definite. I don't think that is. And listen, Mandy, thank you so much for your call, by the way, and your lovely comments as well. You've been brilliant. You were going to come in.
I have a theory on this, and I've spoken to a few people about this. The reason young people aren't as patriotic is foreign isn't as foreign anymore. When we move around as a generation, for example, you go away to university, you live in a different bit, you are not as cemented into one bit of the country where you live from. So, for example, where I'm from, there's 3 generations of a family all within the streets of each other. That doesn't happen anymore for people of my generation below. You travel much more. Point. So that's why they're not as concerned about immigration, because people aren't as foreign to you as they would be if you're a little bit older, where you've only lived in a certain area. That's my theory as to why people aren't as patriotic. It's not that they don't care about the country, it's that the concept of the country is within one of 190 odd countries.
So the parameters that you're living within have completely changed.
Yes,
that's
in my
several
theory.
Generations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's a rather good theory.
Yeah.
It's the same theory.
I've no basis for it, in fact, at all, but it's just my presumption.
Well, when I, again, have arguments with mad lefties about economic migrants, and they're just almost like you've shot their dogs by even suggesting there could be such a thing as an economic migrant. And my point is, why do you think it's weird that at this point in the 21st century people move around a lot? 20 years ago, nobody in Eritrea thought it was possible to get to the United Kingdom. It was just a sort of dream that there's a distant land, even 20 years ago. Now, you just look on TikTok, anyone can go there, and if you don't want to do it officially, get on a boat in Calais and do it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
The idea of travel is just imminently possible.
And also, I think the internet has played a great factor in that. It's the fact that we could talk to the other side of the world in an instant. That kind of the world is not as small as not as big as it used to be, and that concept, I think, is really one of the main dividers between an older generation and the younger generation. Is we don't see Australia as that far away. If you can,
that's true. My mum, this is again generational thing. We lived in Kent. For some reason, it took her till she was about 50 to do a day trip to France, which you could do. We were only a stone's throw from Dover or Folkestone, where you could get on the ferry. You could be there in half an hour. I mean, my mum come back as if she'd just done a royal tour of Kuala Lumpur. I mean, the idea that she was almost saying stuff, and this is very sort of old-fashioned working class kind of language. She almost said, they all speak the language over there, even the kids. They have funny money.
Funny money, that's a good one.
All of that.
And I remember my grandmother once asked me, I was going to Greece on a holiday, she said, "Oh, well, can you drink the water?" I was like, it's Greece. It's just the concept of what is foreign is very different, and I think that is a real divide in our politics now. It's not age, it is that kind of international versus local.
Yeah, I think it might be one of those rare moments, Peter, where you've got a good point.
Oh no, don't tell Kevin.
Can we make a note of that? On this day, 15th of August, yes, we remember VJ Day. We also remember PB Day.
Peter got something right.
Wisdom was made in this studio. Let's talk to Dave, who's down in London. Dave, how are you doing?
Hi, Ian. Hi, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, good. What are your thoughts?
I've got a crush on you.
Well, you're no good to me, Dave, frankly.
No. So cut the call shorter, I suppose.
That's all right.
I just wanted to disagree with Pete what he was saying earlier. You first started with the let's call it the Lucy Connolly Jones thing, and I think Pete was making the point which I would expect a liberal conservative to make. So it's coming from the right place that Lucy Connolly shouldn't have gone to jail, and therefore nor should Ricky Jones. And people that are phoning up, going on about Ricky Jones are going to make it worse as free speech and blah blah blah. But there's a couple of points here. Number one, Lucy Connolly did go to jail. It was a political move to put her in jail, and therefore, if she went to jail, he can go to jail. Now, I do get the fact that neither should go to jail, but the issue for me is, and this is where I think liberal conservatism are going to get rings run around them is that if you'd have had anyone else sitting in that chair, Owen Jones, Benjamin Buttercup, whatever his name is that you have on the left, or even Jonathan Liss, who's so far left anyway.
Jonathan is so far left, he's almost right.
If you'd have had them in the chair and you'd have said, what about this issue? All three of them would have said, Lucy Connolly definitely needed to go to jail for these 5 reasons and throw away the key.
Yep.
And Ricky Jones shouldn't go to jail for these 5 reasons and this is the reason why. And what I'm trying to say here is the left are very good at holding the line under any circumstances. They will defend the indefensible till hell or come white water. But conservatives, and I used to put myself in this box as well, we have different kind of views. So you could give us 10 different subjects and we would probably go a bit to the left on one, a bit to the right on the other.
Good point.
But if you gave Jonathan Lisson them 10 subjects and Owen Jones, I know exactly where they'll be, and they'll hold the line because they have to hold the line. And my point is, if we want to change this now, and I also like to be a liberal conservative, it's very magnanimous, but liberalists are not like that. They will hold the line. And what I'm trying to say is that if we don't, you've got to pick a side now. If you're in the middle, you're in the way.
Yeah, and you know what? You only need to.
A side.
Yeah, but you only need to. I mean, do you think you've got to pick a side, Dave, or do you think it's in? Others are saying you have to pick. Are you advocating picking a side?
5 years ago, I would say no because I'm a liberal conservative.
But now you're saying the only way to win the battle is to have a side.
What I'm saying is, but it's ludicrous to think that Liss, Owen Jones or Buttercup.
No, I agree with that. But you see, if you say something like Donald Trump, for example, like I could give you a list of 5 things about Donald Trump that I think are incredible, that he's done. Great achievements, okay?
Yeah,
if I mention one thing that I think is bad, then I'm dead as far as a Trump fan is concerned. It's almost like, hang on, did you not hear the 5 things I said? I only mentioned 1 bad thing. I mentioned 5 good things.
Yeah, but if you go the other way, and you were with Jones, Liss and the crew, you couldn't mention one thing.
It's just the same on the right, though. Sorry, David. It's exactly the same problem. It's what I call ideological litmus tests. In other words, if you aren't 100% on one side, then that's it. You're out. And this is the problem. But the left is just as guilty as the right on this. And you know, it's.
Let me just come back on that
very quickly, Dave, because we've almost out of time.
Peter, you are correct. But there will be 10 people on the right like that and 10,000 people like that on the left.
Yeah,
so their army is far bigger.
They've got a bigger army?
I think they have people in more powerful positions, but the bigger problem is the vast majority of people don't care.
And can I say, Dave, just a final point connected to what we began with. You're right, Lucy Connolly shouldn't be in jail. That Ricky bloke shouldn't be in jail. The guy from Just Stop Oil, who got 7 years, I think, he shouldn't be in jail either, Dave, right?
Say no from a liberal conservative point of view. But again,
yes, because I know. I hear you.
The left is, if it was the other way round, they'd throw away the key, mate. It'd be gone.
There it is. Listen, Dave, thank you, mate, for that. You got to pick us. That's an interesting position.
But this is part of my problem. Is that actually
the black and white, the polarity,
the polarity in our politics is what is going to be the noose around our necks, and it has been for a very long time. I get the argument that you've got to pick a side to a degree, but you've also got to understand that what we're living through is a product of something. So Keir Starmer is a product of the culture that we've allowed into our politics. You don't replace the establishment with a new establishment.
You don't indeed. Listen, Peter, stay with us. Still to come, we're going to talk to Lucy White, public policy specialist, in just a couple of moments. 10 to 9, it is Talk.
you're an asylum seeker, you get given something called an HC2 certificate,
That's
which
the one, yeah.
qualifies you for all that kind of stuff. Dentists, some prescriptions, all free of charge. Not only that, but you're allowed to claim the cost of travel to go to a hospital or a surgery or so on. Now, these certificates, HC2 certificates, are given out to some UK citizens, but 2/3 of them at present are being given to asylum seekers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is Talk. It's 8 minutes or thereabouts to 9 o'clock. Police raiding a taxpayer-funded migrant hotel in Wembley and nabbed 2 men after a £180 Hugo Boss jacket and other designer goods vanished from West End stores. Critics warn migrant hotels are turning into crime hubs. Is it time for zero tolerance and rapid deportations? I think everybody would say, well, yeah, if you've got a wrong one who's doing really bad stuff, surely you would deport them. But apparently it takes about 17 centuries to do that. Let's talk to Lucy White, public policy specialist. Lucy, how are you doing?
Hello, Ian. I'm great. Dialing in live from Tenerife.
Tenerife? What's going on over there? What's happening?
Just enjoying some summertime away from the UK.
Yeah, I said that like it's illegal. Didn't
I know, yeah.
To go to, like, what are you doing having a holiday, Lucy?
How dare you?
This is madness. What's come over you? Well, it's a good time to escape, really, because there's a lot of madness going on over here, right? I mean, it's absolutely, it's more than bonkers. I mean, we have stuff, I just alluded to it there, very straightforward case. You're an asylum seeker, you've nicked some stuff, fantastic, great, shake your hand, thanks for your time, get out. I mean, that would be the way I think most sensible people would deal with it. We don't quite do that over here, do we?
No, we don't. And the point to remember is that the moment the illegal migrants come into our country illegally, they are, by definition, criminals. So why would anyone be shocked that they would go to Oxford Street and, help themselves to some Hugo Boss jackets? It's part of what we would expect them to do as criminals. I think what's the issue is, we're all aware of what's going on, yet nothing's being done.
Yeah.
And, I think we have a few policy options here. So the short-term policy would be, do not give them freedom to leave the hotels. Because if they are actually asylum seekers, which we know they are not, they would be grateful just to be safe and alive. So, why would they be shopping around, going to Oxford Street and stealing? And of course, we need mass deportations. This is a no-brainer. We've been speaking about this for a very long time. And, in the last 6 days alone, if you look at the government figures, we've had 2,042 illegal migrants cross in the last 6 days.
Wow, we're good at something then in the UK still, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, we are. Good
I keep mentioning the 50,000 figure. Because we've had this kind of, it's the boiled frog effect, isn't it? Because this is happening on a sort of daily basis. Stuff that once upon a time would have made headlines around the world every day. 1,000 people just turned up to the UK. Wow. But the figure of 50,000, it's so big, it's so huge, it's so disturbing, and correctly so. It should be disturbing and worrying. No matter where you sit politically, everyone should go, hang on a second, something's gone wrong. And yet it's sort of, despite the enormity of the problem and the numbers involved, Lucy, it kind of gets a bit of a free pass.
Yeah, it does. And I just want to make a quick link between the 50,000 figure, because if you go back to 1968, so Enoch Powell's famous speech, he actually said it's utter madness that we are bringing in 50,000 migrants annually. and this was back in 1968. And we've now just brought in 50,000 illegals under Keir Starmer in 1 year. If you go back 2 years ago, in 2023, we had net migration, including legals, of over 900,000, which is 18 times that amount that we were shocked at back in 1968. And going back to 1962, we had the Commonwealth Immigrants Act, which tried to reduce immigration. And 60 years on, Ian, here we are. We just can't seem to get our heads around it. I think we just need an urgent change in government, but I think it's not just the government. I think it's the underlying system. So, we need to, of course, remove all the benefits, remove the hotel, remove the free phones. We need to be tougher. We need to have deportations instantly. So the moment they come to the UK, they should be deported. They should never even set foot on British.
That sounds reasonable, Peter, doesn't it?
Oh, without a doubt.
That's kind of the Australian model was sort of based on. You never ever got to Australia.
Yeah, but this is the fundamental thing, and I'm sure Lucy will agree, is that actually what Australia stopped doing was caring about editorials in The Guardian. They didn't mind being the bad guy. They actually put on their big boy pants and enforced the law. That is what they did, and that is how they were able to do it. Unfortunately, we have a government that cares more about the Guardian commentary pieces than it does about actually defending our borders. That's the reality. All of this is a lack of political will. It boils down to nothing more than that. And unfortunately, we do have a government that is, particularly a prime minister, that believes more in the internationalism and the globalism than, the defending national borders. That's the reality of it.
Final word on that then, Lucy. Do you concur with what Peter just said? This is really about, they're worried what people think, which is always a road to misery and failure.
Yeah, well, just to sort of conclude on that, what I'm concerned about is the death of our high street. In terms of international reputation, if you're coming to to London to go shopping and you hear this news, you're going to avoid Oxford Street at all costs. If you find out there are gangs operating, shoplifting, illegal migrants, I think this is very disturbing on an international front. So I think they should be worried about that. And in terms of the economy, if people are too scared to go shopping in Oxford Street, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bizarre place we've arrived in, isn't it? People are scared to go to Oxford Street.
Well, I'm terrified of Oxford Street, just the number of people and it being Oxford Street.
And those big American sweet shops as well. There is that
sweet
as well.
shops.
Listen, sweet. Lucy, thank you. Lucy White, public policy specialist. Lovely to have you on with us. We've got more coming your way, more calls as well. 0344 499 1000. You can leave a voice note there as well. And of course, you can message 87222. So many subjects still to talk about. We've got our eye, of course, that big news this evening. Trump and Putin, they've shaken hands, they've been on the carpet, their planes landed, they're off for their meeting. Any developments, any of the latest, anything that happens post those meetings, you'll hear it first right here on Talk. First, though, the time is exactly 9 o'clock. Let's get the news.
Wow! Meghan Markle and her spare Prince Harry have struck an amazing new deal with Netflix. Or have they? The delighted Duchess declaring in a carefully worded press release how proud they are to extend their partnership and expand their work together. So, brilliant! Another 5-year contract worth $100 million, yeah? Oh, no. Wait a minute. It's not quite as lucrative as that. In fact, the jury is out on whether or not the gruesome twosome's new relationship with the streaming giant is worth very much at all. If you were sucked in by Ms. Markle's gushing announcement, you'd have thought that nothing had changed. So thrilled are Netflix bosses with their royal recruits that they're only too happy to hurl yet more mountains of money at the super successful Sussexes. But is that actually the case? I don't think so. Read between the lines of what looks like a classic slice of Meg spin, and a rather different reality emerges. This is a first look agreement which amounts to Netflix executives telling the difficult Duchess and hopeless Harry, if you got any good ideas, come to us first and we'll let you know if we're interested. If we're not, by all means, shop around elsewhere. Whether there's a small financial retainer involved, we don't know. But even if there is, it won't amount to even a tiny fraction of the megabucks they've been receiving since 2020. And if the not famously productive Sussexes stay true to past feeble form and don't come up with decent ideas, the reduction in the immense income to which they become accustomed will hit them horribly hard. With their massive Montecito mansion and planet-destroying private jet travel to pay for, the King and Queen of California's luxury lifestyle is staggeringly expensive. Losing $20 million a year is the last thing they need. But in fairness to the self-styled golden couple, raking in the Netflix lolly is not a total dead duck. Warning! The second series of the unacceptably awful With Love Meghan is all set to hit the screen. And if the traumatically trite trailer is anything to go by, incredibly, Season 2 promises to be even worse than Season 1. No mean feat. Her ladyship still finding new ways to show people you care by foisting amateur cooking on them while she just loves these moments of discovery and beauty. What the hell is she droning on about? Lots of stupefying shots of average-looking salads, pastries and flowers. Just as she did in the first series, Meghan manically cutting and slicing fruit, bread and pretty much anything she can put a knife to, surrounded by a pathetic posse of simpering sycophants acting like they're witnessing the invention of the wheel, a nauseating, swirling mass of twee twaddle for 90-year-olds, and the shock revelation that Harry doesn't like lobster. At last, something I have in common with old ginger nuts. But there, I'm glad to say, the similarities end. But if the grim prospect of more of Madame's life-sapping domestic goddess drivel isn't bad enough, now Marvellous Meg is threatening to serve up a festive special optimistically called Holiday Celebration, dooming those who make the mistake of tuning in to a very unhappy Christmas. Savour the wildly OTT publicity puff. Together, friends and family deck the halls, create holiday feasts, craft heartfelt gifts, and share lots of laughs. But of course, there'll be no sign of Meghan's family, her father, her brother, and her sister, all having been ruthlessly removed from her faux aristocratic world. And not a hint of Harry's royal family, none of whom talk to their sulky renegade relative anymore after the disgraceful disrespect he has shown them since running away from his regal duties. Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, has never met his ginger son-in-law and never set eyes on his grandchildren. King Charles hasn't seen Archie and Lilibet for years and no longer trusts the petulant prince who turned on him. So much for the Sussexes' family Christmas. Also part of the Duke and Duchess's new unimproved deal is a documentary all about Uganda's HIV/AIDS crisis. Exuding Harry's white saviour-style worthiness, the short film Massacre Kids, A Rhythm Within doubtless tells an important story. But without wishing to seem heartless, its commercial potential is less than zero. In other news, still with Harry's Africa fixation, after he flounced out of his children's charity Sentebale amid a row over his alleged colonialist leadership, the dim Duke is reported to be devastated. As usual, in times of trouble for her hapless husband, Meghan has maintained a wall of silence. Why is that? Discuss. Now, before we do discuss all of this, here is the promotional video for the second series of With Love, Meghan, You Have Been Warned.
So comforting. Very comforting. Often what I want to make are things I want to share. This looks fantastic. There are easy ways to show up lovingly.
That actually is giving me goosebumps. That is so lovely.
Do you know who doesn't like lobster?
Who?
My husband.
And you'll marry him? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't like lobster either, as I said in my monologue. But here's a much better trailer. Welcome to my beautiful home. What do you mean it's not my fucking home? Every morning I pick beautiful flowers from my beautiful garden and I feed them to my beautiful children. So what if you haven't got a f***ing garden? I haven't really got any children. I hate f***ing bees. Get me out of this bee suit now. I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it. You know, like my husband. It's so funny that people keep calling me Meghan Markle because it's Meghan Sussex now. It's Meghan f***ing Sussex. Meghan f***ing Sussex. Meghan f***ing Sussex. Yeah, well, Samara, after that trailer, I'm now going out with myself because I'm very attracted.
Very dishy.
I love myself. Well, I always have loved myself, but now I'm sexually attracted to myself. So we make a great couple. But seriously, the promo, the new series. Let's actually, before we get to that, let's talk about the Meg spin. You know, depressingly, so many newspapers fell for it, hook, line and sinker. She obviously put this statement out, oh yeah, we've extended our deal, it's fantastic, it's fantastic. If you looked at the headlines, for example, in the New York Times and the Hollywood Reporter, they told the real story, downgraded deal. That was Hollywood Reporter. They said Netflix downgrades its deal with Harry and Meghan. The New York Times says Netflix loosens its ties with Harry and Meghan. That was the true story. What this is, I mean, you know, it's almost like you or me. You know, if we've got an idea, go to Netflix, and if they like it, they'll make it. So that, as I said in my monologue, there may be a small retainer involved, but essentially what this adds up to is Harry and Meghan have just lost $20 million a year.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Meghan is a massive scam artist. First of all, that season was filmed alongside season 1, so that was already in the can beforehand. It's not like she's come out and said, oh, actually, we've been filming this the whole time. You've said that my contract's cancelled. Not true. And second of all, the swathe of guests that she's had on are all people who have Netflix shows already on the platform and have actually invited themselves then onto the show. So it's a very artificially curated second season. She's got Jay Shetty, who's a disgraced guru. She's got Tan France, who's on Queer Eye, and she's got a swathe of other random guests. Well,
no, a great show.
Queer Eye.
There's no issue with him being on Queer Eye, but it's a Netflix show, so it must have been within his contract to appear on there.
Yeah.
So yet again, we're not seeing any of her authentic relationships. There's no Oprah, there's no Gayle King, there's no Tyler Perry cropping up. So the whole thing is actually a real farce, and I'm not falling for it. I'm glad you aren't too, Kev.
And who's that supermodel on it?
The fact that you can't name it and that I can't remember.
Tegan.
Oh, Chrissy Teigen.
Yeah, she's the one who had big trouble because she bullied a teenager online.
To death. Yes.
Yeah.
The teenager then killed herself. So it's nice to know
Perfect
that's
for
who
Meghan,
Yeah,
then.
perfect.
Yeah, well, they're just a collection of paid sycophants. And you know, like in real life, Ash, can you imagine it? Imagine all of us and a few of our mates and someone's in the middle going, oh, look, I put some string around some biscuits and, oh, look, I'm crumbling cheese. And us all going, oh, wow, that's amazing. It's the second coming. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But you say they filmed it at the same time as the first, so they couldn't tweak it, because they know the first one was rubbish, and now they've got to put out a second. Well, they could at least try, if they'd waited a bit, they could have said, oh, well, that didn't work. But how's a Christmas thing going to work with just her and Harry there? She won't have any family at all.
I'll tell you this, Harry is very unlikely to be in it. I mean, he made a very, very fleeting appearance in the first series, right at the very end. Literally came in, had a quick drink and went. And I believe in the second series, which I suppose I will subject myself to, for professional reasons. I believe he's not in it at all.
So you mean...
So the chances are he won't appear in the
So it'll just be Meghan on her own having a Christmas dinner and pulling her own
with those same, that posse of pathetic sycophants.
Yeah,
going, oh, look, amazing, look.
It's embarrassing.
Look, she's made a salad.
It's embarrassing.
She'll say some crap like, friends of the family you choose. It's like, maybe think about the fact that you pushed your entire family and Harry's family away. I mean, the thing is that her authenticity is right out the door here. We know the facts. We know, as you said in your monologue, that she doesn't speak to any one of her family members. She's got terrible relationships behind the scenes, even with her staff, who she pays to be around her. So why are we going to eat up this holiday special? It's not going to happen.
And also, Ash, it's a very, very old-fashioned format. You know, this sort of domestic goddess stuff. And as Martha Stewart said, you know, a real domestic goddess, the queen of them all, America's famous Martha Stewart, she said, well, she sort of questioned, she sort of said, well, look, you can't just stand up and say, I'm a domestic goddess. You have to have the skills.
It's inauthentic, isn't it?
And Meghan is just someone, you know, who's an amateur cook. Big deal.
I mean, it sort of suggests, because Netflix, you'd have thought, would have got involved after all the calamities, but obviously they can't even think of anything really to do with her. Do you know what I mean? What are you going to do with her? The only thing that would be a good show is if she sort of came out and gone, yes, I've used everybody, and I've got rid of all my family, and this is tell a whole story of how she got to where she is.
Yeah, and I mean, Netflix in this instance, they must be absolutely not caring about getting a young audience, because this drivel, this old-fashioned drivel, will not be of any interest to anyone under the age of 93. I'll guarantee you that. I spoke to Kinsey Schofield the other night about this very topic, and this is Kinsey reacting to the First Look deal.
I'd say this is a pretty big downgrade. This is not what they were hoping for to maintain their American lifestyle. But it saves them both from embarrassment. Netflix did not want to have the same egg on their face that Spotify had when they had to admit that they had mismanaged thousands of dollars when it came to offering the Sussexes a deal with, the Spotify deal. I mean, Netflix had to go to their investors and say, we made a huge mistake. We're sorry that we spent such a significant amount of money and the return on investment wasn't there. And Netflix didn't want to have the same conversation with their investors and with their staff. So what they're doing is they're saying, oh, no, we didn't make a mistake. We're going to hold on to them. We think they've got something left in them, but they're not having to fork over the amount of money that they did the first go round, which that type of money and opportunity, I just don't think exists anymore.
Exactly the same thing has happened to the Obamas. The Obamas had a similar deal with Netflix, and a similar, very lucrative deal. And after, 2-3 years, Netflix turned around and said, tell you what, let's make it a First Look deal. First Look just doesn't mean anything. As I say, sometimes a First Look deal involves a very small retainer. So you come to them first. But basically, it may well not involve any money at all. It's just like our door is open to you, and if you have a good idea,
we may get back into that, but let's look at what is happening today. Do you think Mr. Trump likes President Putin? He talks about affable conversations he's had with him. He's a tough guy. He's a strong leader. All of those platitudes that anyone would say when they're going to meet someone. Do you think in his inner DNA, his political radar, that he likes Vladimir Putin?
I think Donald Trump likes Vladimir Putin's ability to do what he has done, which is rule Russia for 2 decades with an iron fist. And by the term likes, let's separate that from perhaps aspires to. Like, he respects the fact that Vladimir Putin is the leader of one of the largest and most powerful countries on the face of the earth, a country with, serious military hardware, a country that can go to space. He respects successful people. And while he can disagree with his ethics or his ideology, he does respect him and he does respect what he represents. And I think that's something that also plays both ways. I think Vladimir Putin sees Donald Trump, obviously much different upbringing, different background. But again, to win the gauntlet in the United States, command some sort of respect, I think it's a mutual respect that will be going into this meeting.
Same question, Sergei, to you. Do you think Mr. Putin likes and respects Donald Trump?
Putin respects Donald Trump very much because Trump is hero. His behavior during attempt to kill him was, amazing. And Donald Trump challenged to the so-called deep state. Donald Trump, with 90% of mainstream media against him, nevertheless, he arrives and help American people to bring America a democracy. I'm very big proponent of democracy. I think democracy is solution of the many problems. And I see that the American democracy has a lot of problems. Next, the elections of Biden have been falsified, and Donald Trump is the leader of American people who want to recover great America. I applaud him. He's real hero, and I'm sure that Vladimir Putin think something
Okay.
about.
Well, we will find out if they think that in a few hours' time. Sergei Markov, thank you very much, sir, former spokesperson to Vladimir Putin, and Errol Moorcoach from Republicans Overseas. Gentlemen, thank you for being on with us. There was some interesting stuff there, Peter Barnes.
Just a tad.
Wasn't there?
Yes.
Sergei, at one point, I thought was going to have a heart attack.
Yes.
But, you know, having a good old shout up at a Western journalist when you're from his backstory is probably water off a duck's back.
Yeah, true. I still find the claim that he was a big lover of democracy.
He loves a bit of democracy.
Yeah, but this is the thing, that we have to remember that democracy means different things.
Yeah.
So we have it's known as adjective democracy. So in Russia, they have a managed democracy. So they have one, is democracy, but it's one party and that's it, basically. We have what we call a pluralistic democracy. It's one of these technical things, but it's very interesting how it's used as a kind of weapon in the kind of the PR war.
Yes.
So, you know, this is the thing, that much of what we're seeing, yes, there is the physical fighting, but there is a whole other layer of the PR war, the soft power narratives that really are shaping this entire conflict. And going back to 2014, you know, you had the Euromaidan protest and the Little Green Men, and Russia denied all involvement and all of this kind of stuff. And it's weaponized again and again by both sides. And, you know, it's interesting in the last, 5 to 10 years, how geopolitics has had such an effect on our domestic politics. Like, everything has divided us and it's been injected, whether it be this conflict or Israel-Palestine. So much of the geopolitics is now in our domestic politics.
Bang on, it really is.
Yeah, but unlike any other time, I think, for as far as I can remember anyway. But, you know, it's the layers of this that really do fascinate me. But again, it is always the 2014 annexation. Everything goes back to that point. But the one thing Sergei didn't mention is that Putin has said very simply that any place a Russian soldier has stepped foot on is Russian. And that core goal, that core idea has not shifted despite everything else that's gone on. So yes, in my opinion, for Putin, it is nothing more than Ukraine is Russian.
But can he kind of, I mean, obviously no one wants to lose face, particularly Putin.
Yeah,
and that is the important thing. But there is, you know, if somebody like Donald Trump starts waving a lot of dollars in front of him, not physically in briefcases, but, you know, in terms of deals and removal of sanctions, whatever it happens to be, could that really seduce Putin? Could he find a way to take the bait but translate it to his own people, that it doesn't look, because that's the crucial
thing,
that it doesn't look as if he's kind of rolled over and had his belly tickled by the White House.
Particularly with the Russians. It's always been a big thing for the Russian president to be seen as leading in the world, to be a figure. It's the same. The French have the same thing. It's why Macron can never compromise. They've got to be on the international stage. It's a big thing in their culture. But again, we've got to go back to the economics. You've got to go back to the oligarchy and their kind of restrictions and their power. You know, look, Putin might be in charge, but he's only in charge for as long as other people allow him to be in charge, if we're being honest at the moment. He's cycling through ministers more faster than Keir Starmer is, but, you know, which is saying something. But it's very interesting. There's a lot of kind of domestic politics in this for Putin, and and the economic side of it, like we've said, there's a huge economic contraction that's only getting worse for him. So he's got to find a way out of this. But again, he can't lose face. How Putin plays this is really anybody's guess. But Trump, I actually think, is holding the cards here, if I'm being honest. It's whether he's going to overplay the hand and give Putin the win. That's the big fear, because Trump's not. The art of the deal is one thing, but that's dealing with things in a corporate kind of, you know, if everybody's miserable, everybody's happy. That's not this. And unfortunately, I don't think the Trump administration has quite worked that out yet. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's anybody's guess.
Just looking. Yeah, it is. I'm just looking at those pictures. The more I see it, the more weird it is to see Putin and Trump getting in the back of the same car.
To see Putin in a Western nation is something else. Like, you know, I can't remember a time, realistically, since I've been working in politics anyway, that he's been anywhere. He's been the pariah.
Well, I made the point, didn't I, to Harry Coleman when I saw that documentary, and there was Blair and Putin's part of the G.
He was.
It's like, what's he doing? Oh, yeah. He used to be part of the club.
Yeah, when he was in the club.
Now he's not anymore.
Yeah.
But seeing them in the back of the car, something about that very simple step of jumping in the car together.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
No, I'm very surprised by that. That's one of the... I think we're going to be surprised by a lot of what comes out of the next 12 to 24 hours, for sure. But, yeah, getting in the car just seems odd. But then I agree with Harry. There was a lot of people that looked very Russian and very big stood next to the car anyway.
Well, I did just notice security guards sort of shaking each other's hands, which I imagine is the sort of handover from the Russians.
You have to remember,
you've got our man for
that's the thing. So
30 minutes.
Everybody in the kind of security and intelligence services, they all know each other. Yeah. You know, it's one of those kind of like everybody in a sports, they all know each other as well. They might be like enemies on the field, but they still play the same game. But yeah,
we take a brief pause, Peter. We're back with more. Peter Barnes is with us on the programme. More comment coming in from you. Don't go away, Herbie. With you in a moment. 0344 499 1000. 22 minutes after 9. This is Talk.
We're not actually in recession, not a major one. We're not going forward. Nothing's getting better. Nothing's getting sort of drastically worse. It's just slowly worse. That's what's sort of very painful about all of this. There's all sorts of potential for Britain to be a major military power or a major diplomatic power if it wants to be. As much as anything else, it just seems to be that our political class has decided to stand still and wring its hands. And that's ultimately what is so frustrating. We're not yet in free fall. It could be averted, the crisis that's coming.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
25 past 9 on Talk. Let's go to some calls and comments. Herbie is in Harrow. Herbie, we asked that question at the beginning. Still proud to be British. Where do you stand on that one?
Oh, good evening, Tim. Of course I am.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I be? It was proud to see the flag flying this morning where the VVJ Day was
100%.
taking place. Isn't it proud to know that we can have a flag flying and respect it? You know, our fathers fought to give us the freedom and independence we got today in the great nation. And I'm afraid
you can't fly it in Birmingham, though, because they'll...
Oh, exactly. Well,
it's a health and safety issue, apparently. They always. Why do they cite health and safety with flags? I mean, can you think of anything more, you know...
It's ridiculous. No. Ian, what is wrong with flying our great flag? What is wrong with it? Tell me that.
What is wrong with it?
Without a
Peter?
license. It's because you did it without a license.
Do you need a license for a flipping flag?
Do you know, I go back to when it was the Jubilee. Do you remember? And like people wanted these street parties. the level of the size of the document to get a street party was astronomical. It was like over 30, 40 pages long of like, have you done this, have you done that? We've become such a country of regulation, and like, have you got to tick box this and all the rest of it? And if you've not done it quite right, then everything gets taken down. That's why the flag was taken down. It's not a Britishness thing. It's a kind of, well, you didn't fill out the form correctly, which is a huge problem. This kind of power of the petty bureaucrat, as I like to call it.
Herbie?
Ian, tell me, how do you feel when you see the you know, going down the Mall with those beautiful Union Jacks flying in full colour?
Absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I think that it's in the right context, it's in the right place, it's uniform, there's symmetry, the palace is at the end there, of course.
It's
and
unbelievable.
It just, there is really something about that. And when you do you know, when we do the pageant and all of that stuff correctly, I mean, during the Jubilee, when, you know, you had, you know, the Queen going up the Thames, Suggs and Madness singing on the balcony. I mean, it's just...
I go back to the point, though, is we don't do it all the time, which I think gives it more power.
Yeah,
I think that's because if we did it all the time, you'd become like, oh, it's just the flags on the Mall. Because when they go up, you notice it more, and I think that's what makes the symbolism of it even more powerful. Is that when we show what it is to be British, it's a force.
Do you feel that, Herbie?
Yeah, look, I'm British through and through. You know, I'm in my 70s now, and you know, I come from a very large family, and I'm proud to be part of Great Britain. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't feel comfortable anywhere else. I'm proud of our nation. I'm afraid that a lot of people don't seem to do that. If they don't want to live here, go elsewhere.
Well, if you could, right, here's a question. I don't mean this in a sort of Partridge way, but if you could be another nationality, who would you be?
To be honest, Ian, I really wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know. The state of the world at the moment, I'm very proud to be here. It's basically normal, not too far off and be mad.
Do you know, I think I'd be French in a weird way. Because, well, I mean, you can't stereotype a nation, but there's a lot of very aloof, miserable old gits over there in France, and they almost, that is kind of the attraction in a way.
I think that's why we hate them
There's
so much.
no one more dismissive in this life than a middle-aged French woman looking very stylish, smoking a gitane, who looks at you like you're dirt and she's Ajax, and I think I want some of that attitude.
Do you think that might be why we dislike the French? It's like looking in a mirror.
Yeah, it could be that. What do you think, Herb?
Yeah, well, the French are something else, like a lot of other nations, you know.
They are indeed.
It's hard to describe them. They are something else. Love them or leave them. Mind you, I love France. I mean, so I do like France.
It's a beautiful place. There's no doubt about that.
It's a beautiful place. It's just the people in it that...
Yeah, or certainly the bloke that runs it at the moment. Listen, Herbie, you've been, as ever, brilliant. Thank you. Herbie in Harrow. Have you got an answer to that one, Pete? If you were a different nationality from being a Brit, what would you be?
I don't know.
The only place I've ever been to that I thought I could live here is Australia.
Well, see, I've been to Australia.
I could genuinely live here.
Everything in that country is designed to kill you.
What, in Australia?
In Australia.
Yeah.
Every bit of whether it's the weather, the animals, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, or the girls, as I found out.
Yeah, I was like, why? That was like, very, like, not there. So, I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question. I probably would say maybe...
Never date an Australian girl. That's the advice. It's like funnel web spiders and Australian girls. Either will kill you
This is only our reminder that Tamara,
Samara, I'm right about this, aren't I? Yeah, bang on. See, she's not even disagreeing
with us.
Absolutely.
I don't know, actually. Maybe American.
Yeah.
But, like, East Coast. So that's like New York side.
Oh, that... It's funny when Trump did the Washington takeover this week. I still can't quite work out what that's about. I love Washington.
Yes.
And it's like it reeks of news and politics.
Yes, because that's all there,
obviously everything that is
there.
But I mean, obviously. But I don't sense that. You know, when I go to Westminster, obviously it reeks of politics. But there is something about, you know, the Hill and that area and the...
Yeah, I think it's because it's all modelled on kind of ancient Greece, isn't it? And, you know, it's got all everything has got the columns, it's got that old, you know, century feel to it, despite the fact what it's, you know, barely
and I sort of missed a generation for being slightly younger than, you know, Mike Graham, my esteemed colleague, but also mate of many years. Mike worked in New York in the 80s, and whenever he tells stories about that, and I've got other sort of journalistic mates who were similarly out, I am so envious of that time. You know, the sort of Reagan years and being out there and on your patch and reporting. New York, I mean, everything you watched on the TV at that time, you know, to have been there at the time.
See, that's called Golden Age syndrome.
Golden Age
syndrome. In other
syndrome.
words, you think you should have been in a different era. And a different period. It's called Golden Age
I think
syndrome.
that all the time about so many things.
Everybody does.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's one of those people who say, oh, I'd love to live, like, you know, in ancient Rome. If they didn't have antibiotics back then, you'd have lasted about an hour. Like,
that's right,
you know, like, we'd always look back on history and different bits of it that we wanted to be a part of.
Knackered teeth and you smelt.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was the case for almost anywhere.
One small cut and you could have died.
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I'd like to have been in Victorian London.
No,
you
really wouldn't.
Yeah, it was a shocking place to be.
Yeah.
We are going to talk to Claude in Surrey shortly. Don't go away, Claude. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hope says, what just happened to what just happened? It's usually on at this time, unless they weren't supposed to play it yet. Oh, it's a secret. Actually, I tell you what happened. Putin and Trump happened. That's the reason why. By the way, that doesn't explain why I'm here, because Siobhan says, very discombobulated, why are you on in the evening? Thought you were on your holidays. No, I took this afternoon off. I had to take this afternoon off, last minute, very last minute. It was just like a family thing. No, it was oddly a childcare thing. It was literally a childcare issue. Couldn't make it in. Only found this out about 11 o'clock in the morning. Just as I'm about to come into work, we planned the show for the afternoon. So Kev covered that, and I covered this. So that's how it all worked out. Well, that's the nice thing about being part of the family. Works out beautifully.
Yeah, I have to admit that. I do agree, though, that there's nothing worse than when, you know, something is out of date, like out of time for when you expect it to be. So I remember I covered, I think I did a Wednesday evening, and I was confused for the rest of the week that it wasn't Friday.
Yes.
It threw me. Like, I've known, more than it probably should have.
Plays with your system.
It really does, yeah.
You don't need that malarkey going on.
I'm busy enough.
Let's cross back to Harry Cole, the Sun's editor at large. Harry, so the meeting is underway. Trump, Putin, they landed, they walked their respective red carpets, they shook hands and smiled, and then jumped into the back of the same car. That was the bit, I think, that maybe took a few of us by surprise.
Well, I think the fact that Donald Trump flew a B-2 stealth bomber over President Putin's head was, I think, one of the most extraordinary power plays I've ever seen. As moments after we last spoke, Ian, as they were shaking hands on that red carpet, flanked by those F-22 bombers. I've been reading into those. I've been writing for tomorrow's Sun. They are worth $350 million each. They are an extraordinary bit of kit. the US keep exclusively for themselves. They won't even sell them to us, one of their closest allies. These are serious bits of fighter jets. And he, as they were shaking hands, he flew a B-2 bomber, last seen blowing up, nuclear power stations, nuclear plants in Iran, straight over his counterpart's head.
That's extraordinary.
It would only be seen as a flex, I think the kids call it.
Is there a snapper there that we've got the moment of Putin looking up at it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he saw that coming. I don't think he was ready for that. And then obviously the U.S. press, the traveling world's media did their absolute best to try and get a question into the pair of them, including President Putin, why, when will you stop killing civilians? And President Trump, how could you possibly trust this man? But they've remained tight-lipped so far on the way into their talk. The Russians are saying this could last up to 6 hours.
Yes, I mean that's a long old tete-a-tete.
That's a long old talk. President Trump is due to appear on Fox News actually at about 2 a.m. UK time. So I don't think he's planning to be in there for 6 hours either, unless they're going to. Unless they're going to invite Sean Hannity into the talks, which I don't think they're going to do.
Well, listen, this is Trump we're talking about, Harry. Anything could happen, for goodness sake. And he likes to get a Big Mac in there as well, in between sort of conferences and TV appearances. Just talk about to us, Harry, about this next meeting. What's the word on the street here? Because Trump has alluded a couple of times this week to maybe another meeting in which Zelensky will be at, and I will come along and be there with you if you'd like me to, he said, in a very sort of reserved kind of way. I mean, is this likely to happen? In what kind of form would that take?
Well, exactly. On the way over, on the plane on Air Force One, on the way over, he did speak to the media. He said, yeah, look, we might have another meeting. We might never speak again. Depends how today goes. So they're slightly playing down that this is going to be a significant breakthrough today. President Trump, on the way, he said he'd be disappointed there wasn't some sort of steps towards a ceasefire. But what has been made clear by the Brits, by the French, by the Germans, by the Ukrainians themselves is that you can't actually carve up Ukraine, so to speak, behind closed doors in a bilateral agreement between the Russians and the Americans. Yeah. The Russians would love it to be done on those terms, or the talks between the two, what they see as the two global powers. But Ukraine needs to be in the room, and actually Donald Trump sort of come round to that in a way that he started out a couple of weeks ago saying that he was going to fix it all, but he has now gone on the record and said that the Ukrainians do need to be a part of these talks. So I think we say it goes well today. I think we will see another summit. Where that will be remains to be seen. This one was slammed together pretty quickly in the last couple of weeks. Alaska being halfway between, symbolically both and geographically halfway between Russia, Moscow and Washington. Where it would be with the Ukrainians remains to be seen. Some preliminary talks have been held in Turkey. There's been some stuff in the Gulf as well, but nothing on the agenda yet beyond the hope of a breakthrough.
Big piece in the Sun on this tomorrow, Harry, right?
Yep, just filed the first edition. I'm a few hours behind you here, and Ankara is even more hours behind me in Washington. So I'll be keeping that updated through the night.
It's always a great read. Anything that Harry puts on paper is well, it's informative and it's just beautifully written. I really mean that, Harry. We're going to watch with interest. What is your gut telling you? You've been around the political bloc for many, many years. I know of all the politicians, Trump is possibly the hardest one to read. Putin perhaps even more difficult. Fast forward 24 hours. Where do you instinctively think we'll be, Harry?
He says he's the president of peace. He really, really wants that Nobel Peace Prize. He wants a breakthrough in this. It's an election promise to end the war in Ukraine. It's a big issue for his Republican base, his MAGA army, who don't like all those billions of pounds being spent on it. So the stakes are very high for Donald Trump. But I wonder whether this will go, so far so good, all smiles and gripping grins so far. But I do wonder whether they'll get through today without some fireworks.
We will watch with interest. And, of course, tomorrow in The Sun, we will read with interest. Harry Cole, The Sun's editor-at-large. Thank you, Harry. He's over there stateside himself. Thank you to him. He's got his eye across all of this. It's Trump and Putin. They're in there at the moment. You'd love to be a fly on the wall of that one, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd give anything to be in that room.
Oh,
just anything. But my big fear is Trump in this second term is legacy hunting. He's doing that thing where he knows he can't run again, so he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, he wants the accolade of being, I ended the war. That is a very dangerous place to be mentally, in terms of when you're dealing with the fate of a nation. And again, is he going to give away too much to just to say, I ended the war? And like Harry perfectly says there is the MAGA base that does not like this money being spent over that. There's the same over here. A lot of people don't like the fact we're giving billions to Ukraine when our own country and infrastructure is falling apart. There is a lot of domestic politics playing a factor here, and again, we don't know. Like you said, Trump is difficult. Putin even harder to predict, but what comes out of this will be definitive either way.
It's funny how, I mean, quite literally, the war in Ukraine could stop.
Oh yes, yeah.
Isn't that bizarre when you really think about it? That somebody has the ability and the power to literally stop a war.
Yeah, 100%. But again,
then of course you've got the face-saving thing.
And particularly on the international level, the Russian kind of mentality of you can't be the weak man. There's a big factor, and you've got to win the PR war back at home as much as you win the actual war.
Let's take a call. Claude is in Surrey. On that question we ran at the very beginning, Claude. Still running with it. Proud to be British. Are you still proud to be British? Evening to you.
Good evening, good evening. Yes, I am still proud to be British. However, we do have fundamental issues, and I think we need immediate world peace.
Yeah.
I do believe that we also have a two-tier Britain in regards to justice, climate, and many of the topics that people really care about.
That's a good point. How do we get a previous caller, which I thought was really fascinating, said you might have heard it. We're now in a world where you have to pick a side. You've got to pick a side on different things, different arguments. Do you feel as entrenched in that there's no point in going, well, you know, I'm a bit left-wing on this, but I'm very right-wing on that. You know, that's no good anymore. You've got to come out fighting with your flag in your hand.
I think people should believe in their values and their passion and not feel to be silenced. We have this society at the moment, unfortunately, where many people feel that it's quite awkward to talk their mind or talk the real issues that need to be addressed because they may be struck down or opinionated by another person.
Yeah. Fair point, Pete.
Fair point, and it goes down to one single word, and the reason we're all falling apart is we don't trust each other anymore. We don't trust that somebody on the right isn't a white nationalist. We don't trust somebody on the left isn't some lunatic that wants no borders. Nobody comes with a kind of a willingness to compromise because we don't trust the other person on the other side of the table. Until we actually learn to actually trust each other and actually believe that that we actually want the best for the country, nothing will ever change. Institutional collapse has decimated us because we don't trust Parliament, we don't trust the media, we don't trust the courts. Because these institutions have compromised, there's nothing holding us together anymore.
But but when people, you know, you often hear the left say, oh, this is just an invention, you're just making it up. But actually, if you look at some of the... I try to avoid the word woke. I hate the word woke. It's been kind of reverse engineered to sort of, you know, in the same way that, you know, your old embarrassing uncle at a wedding will go, political correctness gone mad. It's kind of in that department. But the kind of gender madness, all that's gone with that, you know, people being sent around, the police being sent to someone's home with 3 transit vans because of a post on Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure, Claude, you sense this as well. That's not the Britain many people want to live in, is it?
Totally, and I think that what they're concerned about is that they feel that, well, when we're looking at two-tier Britain, why don't we bring the importance of equity, but also the importance of enforcing our borders and also not having false promises? So when we talk about the recent increase of migrants, there's been many times that Keir Starmer has done speeches and said he's going to address it, and there's been many times that previous governments said they're going to address it. But the British people are feeling the squeeze of our systems at breaking point. And when you feel that, I think it becomes a thing where, of course, no one trusts each other, no one trusts the services that's supposed to deliver.
Great call. Claude, thank you very much indeed for that. Claude in Surrey. The only reason I brought up some of that, Peter, because we were talking, or you were talking a little earlier about how you know, different generations are further away from perhaps some values.
Yeah.
Because the world has opened up. It's a very different place. Our relationship with people in other countries, with quote, the foreigner, is very different to what it used to be. In addition to that, this thing of it used to be better in our day, etc. But there are some tangibles here, and I mentioned, you know, the woke and gender stuff, what's going on social media and things you can and cannot say. I mean, they are very definitive examples of stuff that is, it's not an invention.
No.
It's not. These are, I think many people would argue, shifts in what our country is doing and where it's going. It's very, if you'd have said to somebody, can you imagine going into a pub even in the 80s, forget the 70s, and not being able to define what a woman was, you know, people would say, you know, you're a weirdo, mate. You know, probably call you a pervert and tell you to get the hell out of town because you couldn't define what a woman was. Or the idea that you might, you know, want to put something vaguely satirical online and then police officers, or have a pop at the board of governors at your kid's school on a private WhatsApp group and find your door being smashed down and your house raided. You know, this kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it's what we call cultural whiplash. We've had so much change in a very short amount of time. So nothing really changed that dramatically, and then everything on every factor went really quickly. And it's the whiplash that people haven't quite. Our systems are still believing it's 1947. The country is obviously living in 2025. Its people are somewhere in between. We're all at different stages, and we're all trying to move together at the same time. We're having huge economic problems, which always spreads this kind of animosity to each other, because insecurity breeds extremes, and once you kind of get the economy back on track, you suddenly notice extreme politics disappears. Look at 1997. You know, it's the reason, you know, they used to say things can only get better.
Well, yeah, what happened to that?
Exactly.
More coming up in a few moments' time. 12 minutes to 10. This is Talk.
We're not actually in recession, not a major one. We're not going forward. Nothing's getting better. Nothing's getting sort of drastically worse. It's just slowly worse. That's what's sort of very painful about all of this. There's all sorts of potential for Britain to be a major military power or a major diplomatic power if it wants to be. As much as anything else, it just seems to be that our political class has decided to stand still and wring its hands. And that's ultimately what is so frustrating. We're not yet in free fall. It could be averted, the crisis that's coming.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, the Stargate of common sense. Andre and Ash are going to be here in around about 10 minutes' time. We'll chat to Ash before then, find out what's going on. This comes from David, who says, evening Ian, patriot, as in the Patriot, we were discussing it. You and your guest said that the word is an American thing and not one that we British use. Perhaps we now find it more useful, useful adjectives, as a reaction to all the Palestinian flags we regularly see covered by various outlets. It's certainly why the St. George flag is now more prominent around the country. The nation feels under threat by the authorities and increasingly a monarchy that seems to appease those who would do us harm. That's an interesting point from David. Maybe it's because of that people are using it.
We're seeing the kind of
just feels out of place to me, that word.
And I think it's because we're so used to not seeing it, that we're seeing it everywhere, that we're noticing it more. But I do think we're seeing a rise of more nationalistic politics, and I think you're right, because of all this kind of international stuff affecting domestic politics, we are starting to see the resurgence of the Union Jack and the St. George's flag and all this kind of stuff. But again, it is all about how far do you push it so that the people that vote who aren't actively political don't get scared off by it.
Yep,
it is a fine line.
Let's take a call. Phil is in Hertfordshire. How are you doing, Phil?
Good evening, gentlemen. Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Gentlemen, just commenting about the Ricky Jones verdict and the astounding astonishment of the jury finding him not guilty. So the Crown Court is in the borough of Redbridge.
Yep.
The borough of Redbridge is Labour. So when they select the jury, they take them from the electoral register of the area, which means there's a very, very high possibility that the majority of the jurors were Labour voters.
But then would many Labour vote, the average Labour voter, I don't think they'd have much connection with an extreme left-winger like him, would they?
Well, they might
into
not
office.
But they might not.
They put him into office. He was a councillor at the end of the day.
True.
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting argument, but we're seeing this quite a lot of the kind of should we still have jury trials? Because there's a load of problems with them, as you rightly say, Phil. But my big fear is, do you really want to give all powers to judges at the moment, considering the craziness that they keep coming out with?
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, definitely not. But maybe select from a few areas, mix it up a little bit. Because look, we say, justice must be blind. But we've seen by some of the guests that come on, the Labour guests, they will not have a word said against Labour. No, and it's blatantly wrong. But no, Labour are doing the best thing.
But then isn't that the same as, like a Tory would say? I mean, I still get Tory MPs that say that, that they are doing fantastic, and they're clearly not doing fantastic.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with the politicians, definitely. However, I think that this is now spilling over into the public. I think they're becoming so opinionated and not budging. We're not able to look at the bigger picture, gents, and I think we're starting to become biased.
But that you would still run a risk, though, wouldn't you? Because you could potentially still have a jury, even in Redbridge, made up of all Tories.
Well, maybe, but not if Redbridge is a strong Labour, meaning the majority of the voters in Redbridge voted Labour.
Yeah, but that's those who vote. But I mean,
just because you're on the electoral register,
you could be in a jury and never voted in your. But I take the point. If you want to fully address that, you'd have to go outside the borough, which I think is the point that Phil is making. Great call, for Phil. Thank you, mate, for that. Really appreciate it. Look who's just darkened the doorstep of the studio. Ash is here.
Oh, is my mic on?
Listen. Yeah. When was the last time we were in a studio together?
Last time it was a long time, wasn't it? Was it when we were at the other place in at Tatfield?
Because I never did a handover with you and James, did I? Here.
Did we not do handovers? Like we must have done.
No, here.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't think.
Well, no, you were never. No, you were a different time slot, weren't you?
Yeah.
You've got a very warm bottom. Pete's got a very warm bottom.
I've been sat here for 3 hours.
Yeah, but in this chair...
I love the fact that Pete... This was great what just happened. Pete had to move to make way for Ash coming in.
Yeah.
But Pete took the chair with him.
Yeah, I did, because I thought the chair is usually in that corner, so if I move, I didn't realise the chair was here.
Essentially, Pete's stolen a chair.
He wanted me to sit on his knee. I know, like that.
Yeah. Well, we've all been there. So, Andre and yourself, Ash.
Yeah, man. We're
What's
talking
happening?
about a two-tier disgrace. You know, if we've got Connie Shaw from the FSU, Free Speech Union, about Ricky Jones and all that disgrace.
Nice guy, that Ricky, isn't he?
Lovely guy, yeah.
Lovely fella. Just wants to cut your throat out.
Wants to cut your throat. I think he was, I think at that moment his blood was so boiling, he would have ran with a crowd towards some, people who have normal thoughts. And anyway, they gave Lucy Connolly. She didn't get bail. He gets bailed as well. He was at the front of a sort of baying mob, telling people to slit the throat. She just deleted a tweet that she'd sent out. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's completely ridiculous.
And
but of course, she pleaded guilty.
Exactly, her lawyers should be questioned.
I wish they'd done a jury trial, because there's no way
they all
she'd
got
be in
not
jail
guilty though. People who went for a trial, and her lawyers who advised her should be, the law. Someone should look at why they were advised.
Well, there's now conspiracy theories about that. What did somebody lean on them? I mean, the smart money is the lawyers just went, probably for the ease of it, look,
yeah, but you're not going to
rights, mate.
You're not going to get promoted in the CPS, and Keir Starmer was the head of the CPS, and he came out and said you'll be charged, convicted, and go to prison before any trials. And they're probably thinking, well, if we want to get ahead in our career, we better. And they get the little nod.
Yeah.
And we're going to replay some old whale things every week now, and we're going to replay, Tony Topping, the UFO guy who said, "You're mocking my art."
It's literally my favourite clip.
Yeah.
We play on the day that James died. Obviously, we were all playing different clips.
Yeah, that's popular.
That was the one. Yeah. That I watched it live as well when that went out. And I remember back in the day having Tony Topping on too.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Did you mock his art?
No, he didn't mention.
You mocking my art? That's my art.
The absolute best line is your line. I think you got off on the wrong foot.
They definitely did, didn't they? Yeah, because he was a big fan of James. He was from up north, probably listened in the 80s.
Back in the day, yeah, probably on air or Metro or something.
I also said to him, never meet your heroes. But you'll see that tonight. We're going to play the whole thing tonight.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
It was such a moment. But Topping... I mean, he very easily got offended.
Well, he's a temperamental artist as well as a UFO expert. So he crosses over into a temperamental UFO expert.
A temperamental.
Yeah, it's a very rare combination
Well,
in the Venn diagram of aliens and artists.
An artist.
It's a terrible combination.
I couldn't believe how he just lost the plot. So you're mocking my art.
Well, there's so much went wrong, and we met his hero and was disappointed, and he'd come all the way. Some of these people that he threw out used to come from 200 miles away and be on for 3 minutes and get thrown out. And I feel really sorry for them, because they'd bought a ticket.
Bought a ticket, thought they were going to see
and
the
they had to stay the night normally because it was like 1 in the morning.
Yeah.